It's much better than before. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having myself, as Senator Taylor and Ms. Griffin here at this candidates forum. I'm Cavalier Johnson, and I currently have the privilege and the pleasure to serve as our city's mayor. The question directly was why I decided to run for mayor. In order to, because I know we're in a tight time, I'll try to keep my answers succinct. I decided to run for mayor, not just because I was the sitting council president and would elevate to be mayor, but because I've got a 20-year track record of service in this community, starting when I was a 14-year-old boy. I started off in this community helping senior citizens to rake leaves and to shovel snow. I continued on in service, going to South America to help rebuild a school for kids who are poor, going to London to work with at-risk young people, going to New York City to work for a nonprofit, going to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina to help the folks rebuild on the Gulf Coast, and then coming back here to continue in service to Milwaukee, working with young people trying to get their first summer jobs, older folks in our community getting back into the workforce, and then having the opportunity to go into city government as an alderman as well. So we have a 20-year track record of service. I believe in Milwaukee. I'm raising children in this city today, and I want Milwaukee to be safe, healthy, and prosperous, not just for my kids, but for all kids and all people in our city. Thank you.
State Senator Ms. Lena Taylor.
Testing. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to be with you. I chose to run for mayor the first time and this time because of the conditions of the city, because of the lack of leadership that had vision for jobs, entrepreneurship, and homeownership, because the voice of the people often seemed to not be answered when they went to City Hall, when they participated in meetings, and when they knocked on the door of those that were in charge or are in charge. I ran for mayor because I am the most qualified candidate in the race, not just because of my years on the finance committee, literally 14 years, and also chaired that committee, but also as a businesswoman, someone who started with $2,000, bought my first property, and ultimately grew that so that I could start my own law office, and also because of the lack of pathways for our young people to be able to have a future and have an opportunity. I ran so that the people could have a voice, I could be their voice, and that we could have a government that is transparent and inclusive of all the people.
Ms. Aisha Griffin of the Poor People's Piece of the Pie campaign.
Okay, thank you. Hers doesn't seem to be working. Okay.
Hello? Okay. Thank you all for having me. Also, thank you to the candidates that's also running. And in fairness, we also have another candidate, Brianna Bonner, that's in the audience. I think that, it'll benefit the citizens as well to hear from all the candidates in the totality. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, because of equality and discrimination and different things of that nature. I want to defy the circumstances. I think that I'm the only candidate that can appear, that can closely relate to the ongoing struggles in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is out of the 50 most populated cities in the country. Milwaukee is number 2 in poverty. It's the most poor city in the state of Wisconsin. And my campaign is called Platform, the Poor People Piece of the Pie campaign. I want to represent the poor, the people, those who want a piece of the pie. I've repeatedly stated in Milwaukee, the city is not poor, but the struggles of the people, the oppression. I'm trying to effectuate change. I've always tried to serve the community, and I think that it's not about the number of years you served as a public official. I think it's about who's best to serve the citizens, who's best to identify with the situation, and who's best to tackle the issues head on. And that's what I think I'm able to do. I've been doing all my life, defying odds and circumstances. And if I'm given the opportunity to rise to the occasion, I believe I will supersede the expectations of the community. Thank you.
Excellent. And I just want the audience to know, and especially my son, who's at the health department, to know that I'm about 20 feet away from everybody. So I decided to unmask so I could, speak clearly here. We might as well get right into it. hot topic in our city. This is for the mayor. Will you design an effective way to combat the high volume of car theft throughout our city?
Thank you for the question, and the answer to that is yes. Reckless driving and car thefts are rampant in our community. There have been more vehicles stolen in Milwaukee than there are. So there have been more. Can you hear me well? Okay, there have been more vehicles stolen in Milwaukee than there have been in other larger cities in the United States. There have been efforts that have been put forward already that I've supported, trying to hold manufacturers of these vehicles accountable for putting defective products on the street. But there also needs to be other interventions as well. When people are stealing cars, and then that leads to other criminal activity, including reckless driving, that unfortunately has taken the life of so many people, dozens of folks in our city over the course of the last year. It's important to make sure that those folks are held to account or caught, right? And so I've supported initiatives along with the police department, the chief, launching the traffic safety unit to make sure that we're keeping an eye on our streets, especially those streets that are most conducive to the reckless driving behavior. We just put additional dollars via the American Rescue Plan Act, the federal funds that Milwaukee got, into camera systems to help identify vehicles that are stolen, so we can tackle that issue of stolen vehicles and also crack down on the issue of reckless driving that is an outgrowth of the issue of stolen vehicles in our city. So it certainly is an issue. It's one that we are keenly aware of. That's part of the reason why I launched the plan that I put out, a comprehensive plan around reckless driving in our city.
Yes, Senator Taylor.
All right. First of all, it doesn't take being the mayor to be able to address the issue of the high volume of car thefts that exist in the city. And the ideas that we could use to do that, as I stated, one of the reasons that I ran is because of the lack of vision and the lack of ideas that had been presented. And when those ideas were presented, like, for example, to take that energy that has turned into negativity with young people and to put them on a pathway. You interested in cars? You interested in going fast? I want you to learn about NASCAR. I want you to learn about Milwaukee Mile. I want you to learn about the auto industry. I want you to learn about how to repair cars. I want you to learn about all those things. Flip that energy in another way. I also believe we should use the High Point, North Carolina model that I brought to the city after going to the Harvard School of Government. And what that does is it's kind of like, let's make a deal. Door number one, I got all the intelligence to send you to prison. Door number two, we can wrap services around you and give you an opportunity to be able to do something, to be a productive citizen. And we do that in a restorative justice kind of model that allows the community, their family, and law enforcement and others in the community to be able to be a part. Nan Haggerty liked that model, but under the previous leadership, we did not implement it with the community in mind. And last, we need kill switches on these cars. The reason that this is happening is because people are stealing these vehicles at rates that they are not even in Chicago. So what can we do? Kill switches. If we can't get the manufacturer to do the kill switches, why are we not? Why are we not moving up and doing that creative, out of the box thinking? That's what I will do as your mayor. That's what I think that we should do, not only on this issue, but others. We need to give people access to opportunity. We need to address the issue dead on, and we need to use best practices.
First of all, reckless driving also includes drunk drivers. Reckless driving also includes speeding. It's not just the youth stealing cars. As I stated before, car theft is a prime of opportunity, and we have enough resources where we can put apps in the cars that can alert the police. Like Ms. Taylor said, one of my ideas was the kill switch, but also with drunk drivers, you can have as well with reckless drivers, those who steal cars, you can have brake locks that you can put on your brakes too, that only the owner knows about, so they can't move the car. the app that will go straight to the police that will lock the people in the car. And the reason why I also talk about drunk drivers because there are more drunk drivers out here than there is those who are still in cars. And I was actually almost killed by a drunk driver as a child. I was severely injured. I went 12 feet in the air. Actually, me and my sibling, I pushed her out the way, and I was hit, and I suffered severe brain damage, broken bones, different things of this nature. And I'm always wondering, like, did this person ever get prosecuted? What was the cause? Different things of that nature. So I'd say reckless driving seriously, but encompassing every part of reckless driving, having a solution for each and every category that encompasses reckless driving. Like I said, with the brake locks, the kill switch, the apps, different things of that nature. It's the responsibility ultimately of the government to make sure that this reckless driving, be it drunk drivers, fast drivers, what have you, we need to have traffic police who are trained just to identify the reckless driving, not to pull somebody over for a tail light or what have you. So those are my solutions that I would entail if I'm elected as mayor. Thank you.
You want to add on?
If I could, I just wanted to piggyback on what Ms. Griffin said. She's spot on. Also, I failed to mention the importance of doing what Chief Art Jones used to say. He used to say that the broken window theory. And I believe that if we address the traffic issue even more appropriately, it allows people to not think it's okay. And what do I mean by that? Originally, like a couple years ago, because this isn't new. That's why I said you don't have to wait to be the mayor to do it. This is a new issue that we had. Originally, it was cars without plates and so on and so forth. Now I'm seeing people with plates that's not stolen cars. It's like people have gotten comfortable with it, and now folks that wouldn't do it is kind of become the group act kind of thing. Like, oh, well, they doing it, so I'm gonna do it, and then one person do it at the light and somebody else does. So I just want to add that I agree with the law enforcement component of that too.
Did you want to add on, Mr. Johnson?
Sure, and I guess I'll say that the senator's right. I mean, you don't have to be the mayor in order to address the issues around reckless driving that we see in our city. If you look back at some of the things that myself and, quite frankly, other folks in the county council have put forward as well and supported, we're trying to get some movement from the state on issues of reckless driving. When you look at the locations in the city of Milwaukee where the most egregious, most deadly car accidents are happening, it's on state highways. Folks in this room, you're driving around, Capitol Drive. That's State Highway 190. In my Aldermanic district, on the northwest side of the city, there was this terrible accident just a couple of months ago where folks unfortunately lost their lives at 76 and Silver Spring, confluence of a county truck highway as well as a state highway as well. And so you don't have to be mayor, but you do need the cooperation of other levels of government. And I know I have certainly sponsored, and other members of the county council have supported as well, legislation asking the Department of Transportation to be our ally, asking the Department of Transportation to come to the city and change the way that they rebuild streets in the city, to utilize the city's complete streets policy when they're rebuilding streets in Milwaukee. It's different when you're building streets in Milwaukee than when you're building streets in Brookfield or somewhere farther out in Waukesha County or beyond. This is the metropolitan center of the state, right? You can't have a highway that's traversing through what ordinarily or would just be residential neighborhoods. There needs to be a different approach. And so I've been working to push the state to be our partners on that, or actually starting to get the state to come along. So I was happy when I announced my plan for addressing issues around reckless driving, and at the table had been the state of Wisconsin. We're cultivating those relationships, and I think we'll be able to do more moving forward as well.
And at this point, it seems like Ms. Taylor's mic is the one that's working the best. So maybe we can share that for now.
I'm happy to do that, and would love to respond to the state issue since it was brought up.
Actually, sure, we'll have time for that.
Okay.
There's actually a follow-up to this very question from our audience. As Ms. Griffin alluded to, it's not just the young people that are doing these this crazy driving stuff, or drunken driving. But in fact, this followed alludes to specifically our young people. It says, so what is our plan to help the young people when they're out doing these crazy driving and stealing cars and things? So maybe we'll start with Ms. Griffin this time.
I have a issue for the people plan. One of my plans is called Juvenile Justice Jam. Excuse me. I wanted to let the children know and the youth know it's not always negativity that's encompassing them, but they feel that way. And I want to incorporate things that can help bust the pipeline to prison, the reckless driving, different things of that nature. Contrary to popular belief, most of the crimes are not committed by the youth, but the youth take a big burden of being told they're the ones, they're the ones, they're the ones. So juvenile justice jams would give them hope, vouchers, resources, training, different things of that nature. As mayor, I would, on a regular basis, meet with the juveniles, again, stating that I want to bust that pipeline of prison and stop the train right before it gets there. A person's mentality and how they perceive themselves is a lot, especially the youth. A lot of youth dreams are killed before they even have an opportunity to live them because the stigma that's put on them. So one of my juvenile justice jam will break that stigma that's put on the youth. Thank you.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you. Um,
Now my mic didn't work, so thank you, Ms. Griffin. So the first thing I'll say is to go back to the model that I spoke about, and using a hub model that allows us to have places. If you think about the spots that the Red Cross stated that they did not want to go in, being able to have places where individuals can go to be able to get services, and the Love and Faith Initiative is that hub model that I speak to. And what we do for the young people, giving them access to opportunity, whether that access is in forestry or in agriculture or in other innovative things like the trades, like technology or the trades or health, being able to give them pathways. Many young people do not have the direction and the guidance that they need. And it's not just the young people, because we have at least 3 generations of babies that have had babies that have had babies. And so as a result of that, you have individuals that are just in need of direction and guidance, not to mention the effect that drug addiction and mental health have had in our community. So I would, again, use the High Point, North Carolina model. I would use the Love and Faith Initiative, so that what we are doing is giving our young people access. And I want to end with, the state does not patrol its state highways. The sheriff patrols the state highway, as well as the local streets are patrolled by the city. And so whatever is going to happen with Milwaukee, it has to be the leaders of Milwaukee. And whether it is funding to be able to help issues, or whether it's constituents like the ones that contacted me about their house, their front porch getting ran into over and over again off of 76 and Hampton. And in that area, we've worked with DOT, and we've had to work with the city of Milwaukee. And what we found is the city of Milwaukee has had to change its way that it designs the streets. We know that the city knows what to do because they've put up those kind of barriers and those things downtown. We need those things more in the city. You begin to see that now, but it's kind of a day late and a dollar short, but every bit matters. And so the point is design, and the state goes by the lead of the city, just for clarity.
All right, on the youth, did you want to chime in, Mr. Johnson?
is your mic working?
It's working. Hello, hello. Okay. Actually, yeah, I would like to talk about the youth issue as well, because what was said is absolutely true. It's not just young people that are driving recklessly, and do get a bad rap in this community for being the ones, almost solely the ones, who are singled out about the issue of reckless driving. But it's not just them. I've had incidents where I'm driving up and down the street myself, and I remember witnessing an issue where there's a middle-aged woman driving a soccer vehicle, essentially, and went through a red light herself. I'm sitting there at the red light, and she just went on through. So it's the culture of driving that's changed because, unfortunately, things that happened years and years ago. And I think part of the reason why we got to this point of reckless driving is because of a policy change from the previous police chief that took away the pursuit policy. And the reason for that is that if you take away the ability for police or anybody really to enforce something, to nip something in the bud, then folks are going to start acting out. And so there was 7 long years. There was 7 years where there was effectively no pursuing. I even had instances where police officers would come up to me in my capacity as an alderman, because when I bring up the reckless driving issue in the district, and they would say to me that there's nothing that we can do about it. In fact, we've been in our squad, and folks will come up to us, flip us off, and then proceed to go through a red light because they knew that we were unable to do anything because they didn't commit a violent felony act. And so for young people, especially though, there are other activities that are out there that we can engage young people in. The problem is with the access. And so one of the things that I think we should be looking to do is work to make sure that we take advantage of technology that's out there. A lot of young people, if we're talking about them specifically, they have cell phones, they have other devices. If we develop some sort of application where they can punch it in and find something that they're interested in, then I think it would help to steer their attention towards some of these other resources that are out there. Just off the top of my mind, Milwaukee Recreation has a ton of activities for people in our community, not just young people, but people of all ages. We should be able to steer them to that. The YMCA program that I was involved with when I was growing has a number of opportunities for young people as well. The Boys and Girls Club, they have a number of sites across the entire city of Milwaukee. There's Journey House, the Silver Spring Neighborhood Center, the Earn and Learn program that we have as well. And sadly, this is something that we really need to pick up on in this community, is mentorship. Because far too many young people don't have a positive adult role model in their life. But for all the people who are listening on this call, the folks who are concerned about the future of our city, if you can have a positive interaction with even one young person, that could change their life. That could change the course of the action that they might do in this community as well. So all those things, I think, are things that we should be working to elevate in this community, to steer young people in Milwaukee right now.
Can I interject? I just want to state that I think that the pursuit policy for the police was an awful idea based on the fact that the police had a responsibility to train themselves as well as pursuing cars, and they did not. The law stated they were supposed to be trained in pursuit, and so someone that reckless driving when the police did pursue caused other issues, caused deaths, things of that nature as well. So I think it's a great idea that they stop the pursuit. And if they're going to pursue, then they need to train in accordance with the law.
This question is actually a follow-up. Maybe you can interject on this, Ms. Taylor, because it has to do with a question that's very near and dear to my heart. Is what is your outlook for plans to combat or to work on community and police relations? And under your administration, will it be possible to mandate that all police officers that are involved in a shooting be alcohol drug tested, and that their names be released within 24 hours, and that the video be released within 48 hours? Senator Taylor?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Griffin. Okay, so first things first, the driving and the issues that we have, I do not believe are based in the pursuit policy. There are many factors that take account or play in why we are where we are. And one of the main ones is we stopped providing driver's education for a long time. And folks learn how to drive based on, what is it called? Grand Theft Auto and other programs along those lines. And as a result of that, you have a lot of people who did not go through that wonderful rites of passage that we went through, really excited to get to 15 and a half and 16 and get your driver's license and do that stuff. And so some of that has changed, and we are now having driver's ed in our schools more, but you still have at least 20 years of folks that did not get that, and that's an issue. In regards to will we mandate some of the things that you stated, I think that it's really important for us to know that the control of the fire and police departments come from the Fire and Police Commission. The mayor's role is to appoint individuals. There has been more than for 10 years, 9 seats that a mayor could use. That 2 of the seats have not been used at all for community members to be able to be on, to be able to fight for those kind of policies that you spoke to. I did the legislation in order to be able to address the Fire and Police Commission, and there are many components of the Fire and Police Commission that are challenging, including how the chief was picked and how the policy gets changed in the midst of the process. So I can't promise any mandates on what the Fire and Police Commission can do. I can state that as a mayor, I believe that transparency and inclusion are important. And I'm going to press for that, and I'm going to make appointments that coincide with that, and I'm going to make sure that the 2 appointments that the Common Council nor the mayor have pressed for, the mayor only can do them, but now the mayor is Mr. Johnson. And I will tell you, one of the first things I will do is to address the Fire and Police Commission, because it is at the heart of millions of dollars that we are spending because of misconduct that has happened in the police department. All officers are not bad, but the truth of the matter is if we let behavior not be corrected, then that's going to be an issue. So I cannot say to you, for the person that asked that question, that I would mandate. But what I can tell you is that those that are in control of hiring, firing, and policies in the police department, which is the Fire and Police Commission, and in whatever role that I can as mayor, I will press for that kind of transparency.
Okay, so the issue here, Ms. Griffin, is drug testing, when police are involved in misconduct, that their names be released in case it's a homicide within 24 hours, and the video be released within 48 hours. Would you support that?
Definitely. Actually, it was a successful program in Chicago. They didn't just drug test, they did DNA tests as well. When police were accused of different things, and lo and behold, police were held accountable. No one is above the law, not even police. Their first duty is to protect and serve. I don't want to, bully the police or say the police, like Confederate stated, all police are not bad, they're necessary, and I commend them when they do a commendable job. But at the same time, Milwaukee has one of the highest rated police misconduct. It's just a fact of the matter. We have a lot of people right now sitting in prison because of police misconduct. And I will go further. If the police is accused of misconduct, we need to look at them cases. Go back and look at these cases. They have to be held accountable because they're public servants as well. And so I don't think they should get special privileges. I think that if drug testing and releasing the names help ensure equality and stop discrimination and to weed out some of the corruption, then it's definitely necessary, because the people should come first. The needs of the people and public safety is a responsibility of the government to ensure that the citizens are safe. And sometimes it has to come from within. Thank you.
Mayor Johnson.
Thank you. To just touch back for a minute on the previous question. I just want to be clear in that, the pursuit policy is not the only factor. It is a factor that changes there. So I just want to make sure that there's clarity on that. What Senator Taylor said is correct in that the mayor does not control, per se, the police department nor the fire department. It is the Fire and Police Commission that has the duty and responsibility to provide that oversight for those departments. I've consistently said that there ought to be 9 members of the Fire and Police Commission. I would have liked for there to be 9 members of the Fire and Police Commission. years and years ago. I'm uncertain why the previous mayor never decided to appoint those folks. And so I just wanted that to be clear as well, that members of the common council don't make that appointment. It's the mayor that makes those appointments, and I've been clear in the past that I would like to see that. Right now, the Fire and Police Commission, due to an unexpected resignation, is down even for 7, and is at 6, an even number, which could pose problems because you could end up with ties. We saw that most recently with the selection of the chief of the last go round, where there were 6 members. And so that's something that we're actively working at right now. As mayor, I will get the Fire and Police Commission up to 9 members, and it won't take me 10 years.
Excellent.
Mayor.
Sure.
So, the first thing I want to say is when the Fire and Police Commission was not able to pick a chief of police, there were multiple rounds, multiple votes that happened. Not one time did I hear anyone say, appoint the other members so that we will not have a tie. Not one time. And the reason that that's important is because the common council, the mayor, they have a bully pulpit, so to say. But the Fire and Police Commission has the power to be able to do the issues to address drug testing, to address whether or not videos are released and those videos being released timely, whether or not an entire file of a victim of sexual assault is turned over to the media when they did a complaint. Silence is not an option when you are a leader at any level of government, but especially when you are a leader at the level of government that is directly connected to it. And so the only thing that I want to make clear is I'm not here to tell you about what I will do when I'm mayor. These are the things that I've been doing as your senator and as a resident of this community, and I will continue to do that as your mayor.
And I've been asked to, I guess, Mayor Johnson's mic is not working the best in terms of feedback for the internet and all of that stuff. So I guess I'm gonna go with your mic. This could be a yes or no answer, so try to keep it brief. Where do you stand on the legalization and taxation of marijuana? Mayor Johnson?
I will answer that question. Let me just go back just for a second on the Fire and Police Commission question. Again, I've consistently called for there to be 9 members. I will appoint 9 members as mayor, and just because it wasn't heard doesn't mean it wasn't said. I didn't hear anybody else also calling for 9 members of the Fire and Police Commission, but just know that that's something that I believe in and something that we will accomplish as I continue on in the role of mayor. On the legalization and taxation of marijuana and using those resources to put into our community, the answer to that is yes, and I've been clear on that as well.
You want me to go next?
Sure. This, like I say, it could be a yes or no
Yes.
answer. Yes.
Yes, I support it. Yes, I've been an author of the legislation. Yes, I've been an author of decriminalization. Yes, I believe that those dollars can be used in a way to move our city forward. Yes, I'm going to ask the Republican legislature to be able to support Milwaukee being the pilot if they don't want to do it in the state. No different than what I already have done. I will continue. And I was the author of the legislation that did cannabis hemp, which is legal across the nation and actually can create better industry opportunities than cannabis marijuana. I know many people don't believe that or know that, but it is true. And I authored the legislation for CBD to be used for individuals who have medical challenges.
Ms. Griffin?
I would never ever encourage anyone to do any type of drug, hard, soft, or what have you. It should also be pointed out that marijuana is still considered an illegal drug on a federal level. There are people who cannot do marijuana. You give them marijuana and end up with heroin. They start off soft. I've seen it. So no, I don't encourage drug use at all, and not even for tax purposes. It's just not something that I'm interested in doing.
All right, Mayor Johnson, did you want to respond to that directly?
No, I feel on the right.
Okay.
It is not, legalization and asking for legalization and decriminalization is not saying, I'm saying everybody go out and support and use marijuana. What I'm suggesting is that the amount of money that we spend, first of all, on policing for that issue, is by no means, a return on our dollar. And, the last thing, that I'll say about it is, I don't see it as a gateway drug as it's been articulated by you, Ms. Griffin, at all. As a matter of fact, I think alcohol, which is legal, has so many more, negative effects, including when you spoke about drunk driving.
Just to reiterate, as far as decriminalization, I definitely don't want to criminalize something like marijuana. It's not that serious. I'm just saying the use of it. A drug is a drug. It's my personal belief that I would not support the use of marijuana.
It's people's
Thank
medicine.
you.
It's people's medicine. It is. It has been used as people's medicine. Veterans in particular, post-traumatic stress syndrome. It helps with it. Anyway,
Long story short.
Yeah, they use cocaine for medicine too, and heroin. So it's a matter of perception.
It's about how you use it, right? I mean, when you get behind the wheel of the vehicle, all of us probably drove here.
Chevy, can you please hold the microphone to your mouth closer,
Sure,
please?
it was giving some feedback before Bell did it. It's all about the use, right? All of us drove here today or found somebody to get here. I assume that no person here got behind the wheel of the vehicle and drove recklessly. It's about how you use it, right? And so that's why I'm in favor of it, and not just because of that, but also because of discrepancies, right? When you look at the people who get arrested, who get busted for marijuana possession, oftentimes they're people who are, folks of color, even though the rates of use are similar to people who are not people of color. So there's an equity issue here as well. When we talk about making investments in things to get our young people on the right track, we talk about making investments in alternatives to police, and we talk about making investments to education. We're leaving a lot of money on the table that the other states that are around us are now reaping in. I think Illinois, Senator, probably correct me if I'm wrong.
All of them
They-
around
they-
us,
they-
we're a donut.
We're the
We're the
donut.
hole with the donut.
Yeah, they're taxing, they legalize, they're taxing, and they're reaping in over $1 billion in new tax growth that they're able to invest.
Well, I just want to
into their
interject
states.
that marijuana is so, we have an argument about why it's so good to use, that we need to go back and, decriminalize. A lot of people have been convicted for it. Possession, selling marijuana. If the government can do it, then we need to, take some of these cases off the people who sold marijuana. If it's so good to do.
I don't have a mic, but I agree.
And so do I, quite frankly. But that's, a conversation we could have down the line. And other countries, right? It's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. Other countries have looked at this and have been more progressive than the United States on some of these policies as well, and have actually been able to reduce usage of their drugs that they work to legalize. I'm sorry, was there an additional question that I missed?
No, that's it. I just found it fascinating that this evoked so much discussion. There are a lot of marijuana smokers, police judges included in Milwaukee, so I just know this as a fact. So it's kind of flipping the script a little bit. All one need to do is drive down Hopkins, Atkinson, 27th Street, King Drive. What are your plans to provide the development for small businesses? How do you plan to address the boarded up homes and small businesses in our community, as well as the trash problem? I know it's a three-part question there, but it's kind of all related. The trash, the boarded up homes, the boarded up buildings, and how do we create more opportunities for small businesses? Ms. Griffin?
I included in my issue for the people plan is a program I call Major Economic Neighborhood Development Under Supervision, where we bring the people to the table in regards to small businesses and long-term employment, not just short-term solutions. We have a lot of vacant homes, we have a lot of dollar houses. I would like to get those back into the hands of the community. it shouldn't be rocket science that the city is just letting homes sit there, and the homeless problem is astronomical. So those are some of the things that I want to do. As far as trash in the neighborhood, I was just speaking with someone. The fact of the matter, the reason why we have rotation of days, your cars have to be on certain sides because the street sweepers are supposed to come in there. So we need to effectuate that again. There are services that the city is just not letting happen anymore, and we need to re-implement those services. And again, then us will bring the people to the table and be a part of the discussion about homes and home ownership and how the city can effectuate change and give some of these homes that's just sitting there to the people literally for $1 and different things of that nature. Thank you.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you. So first of all of those issues, the trash, the boarded up houses, and how we address small businesses, all have policies that connect to them. The trash dumping is the way that it is because a policy has been put in place that changes when people can dump, how much they pay to dump, and the lack of, I'm going to say, oversight of those individuals who see that and are employees in those departments not doing the follow-up maybe the way that they need. Many people are probably very familiar with the issue that happened with the woman where the amount of garbage, it seems like it was the amount that was equivalent to this whole room and maybe more. And that happened because of neglect. And the neglect that has happened in the neighborhoods of our city is a reflection of policies and leadership. So first of all, the policy that says that you have to do dumping the way that we do, I think there are many more creative out of the box ways to do it. I think dumpsters need to be used more effectively, and I think the policy that is in place now is not working. And I respect that the city has financial challenges, but we have to look at the policy that's been put in place, and is it costing us more than we thought it was going to bring us because we put that in place? Boarded up buildings, no way that we should be doing the policy the way that it was put in place to allow developers to get the first dib of properties in the city. I think more than individuals in the neighborhoods. I want to use a program that they have in Inslee, Alabama. It allows individuals to do community service work and to get trained in the trades. And when they do that work, guess what? They can become homeowners as young as 18 and 19 years old. Imagine with me, if you will, a young man in school or a young woman in school who's had an opportunity to do such a program. That's kind of what the Love and Faith Initiative speaks to. But that they do that and they can come home and tell their mother, to go to what Ms. Griffin said, who might have had eviction problems or homeless problems, and say, I'm a homeowner, mama. I'm a homeowner, granny. I'm a homeowner, daddy. I'm a homeowner, papa. That is powerful, and that's how we're going to change also the issue that Ms. Griffin mentioned, the poverty issue that exists in the city. We're not going to change the plight or the direction of this city without changing homeownership and entrepreneurship. I also want to create for businesses and for the trades in the Love and Faith model. I want to be able to create free apprenticeships and apprenticeships because we have an issue even with apprenticeships. People of color are often left out of the apprenticeships. Our numbers are not great. And anyone who doesn't know can look at an NAACP report. Actually, the report is from almost 10 years ago. And even with that report, we've not addressed it. But what I'd like to do is see us do apprenticeships in entrepreneurship. Teens Grow Greens does it now with agriculture. And I'm here to tell you that that model is the same model that we're working with other organizations that provide government assistance to be able to do the same for adults, not just for young people. So beautification and using our bids and our associations to address the trash and policies dealing with how things get dumped. And I know that they have a great piece that says, if you see someone dumping, you can get $1,000 if you turn them in. Boarded up properties and businesses, I want to do it through apprenticeships in both homeownership and entrepreneurship.
Mayor Johnson.
Great.
Thank you. And what was that is correct in that in order for us to holistically take on this issue citywide, so that it doesn't continue to happen, we need to provide opportunities for the people who live in our city that have access to family support jobs, right? It's not going to be a silver bullet like it was once before, but if you just look back at Milwaukee's past, you'll see that we used to have the highest quality of life for African Americans in the United States when folks had access to family supporting jobs that were in their neighborhoods that were easily accessible. We need to get back to that. And so apprenticeships certainly are something that this community, unfortunately, has been sleeping on, but provide a great pathway into family supporting work. I often point to a story that I saw recently. I think it was last summer, where a young person in our region graduated from high school, 17 years old, got an apprenticeship. He had a signing day record, but he wasn't signing to go to college. He was signing up for an apprenticeship. And when he signed up for an apprenticeship at 17 years old, he was making $20 an hour. Now, I wasn't making $20 an hour when I was 17 years old, but in 4 years, when he completes the apprenticeship, he'll be making $67 per hour, which is more than what I make now and more than what the mayor would make, more than what the elected mayor makes as well. So that's something that we've been sleeping on. We should be working to connect everybody in our community, particularly our young people, with those sort of opportunities so that they can work to stabilize their neighborhoods, because that's ultimately how you get to greater public safety and support businesses on the ground. With the boarded up homes, obviously the city acquired a number of properties years ago. The city acquired a number of properties years ago, continues to hold on to a number of properties. Unfortunately, it's my desire, and I think the desire of every member of the common council, to get those properties out of the hands of the city, because they do no justice, they do no good for the city to hold them. They become drains on the city. They don't add anything to it. They're properties that you got to board up, obviously. The properties you have to protect. If a fire happens, you got to go put it out. You got to patrol them, make sure nothing's going on the inside. You got to shovel the snow. You got to cut the grass. You got to do all that stuff. And so it's best to get those properties back on the tax rolls. And what I did, working with the common council, when we got that federal money from the Biden administration, the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, is we put over $40 million towards that initiative to tackle the issue around these properties, to put money into them, so that we could sell them at affordable rates to increase home ownership in our neighborhoods. Again, so we can help to stabilize those neighborhoods and get people the affordable housing that they need and that they deserve.
And I just want to interject that.
If I can finish just a moment, on the issue of businesses, it's my intention when the next tranche of ARPA funds gets here, that we're very intentional about supporting businesses in our neighborhoods, that we work with our business improvement districts, and that we invest those federal dollars right into our communities, right into our neighborhoods. You know, the suburban communities, they've got, you know, the malls, and God bless them for having them, but I don't think that we should cede the opportunities for people to shop in their neighborhoods. I don't think that we should let go of our historic commercial corridors. We should be supporting those and getting more resources in there and letting the people who live in the neighborhoods be able to shop locally. When folks have the opportunity to shop locally, they spend their dollars closer to home. That creates jobs and opportunities for the people who live on either side of those commercial corridors, and that's what we should be doing.
I just want to interject that, you know, the mayor received over $300 million for the American Rescue Plan. He's done anything but rescue people in Milwaukee.
Right.
And if the city can sit on boarded up homes for years and years and deny people homes, then they're just as big as the problem of homelessness and different things of that nature, and that right should be forfeited.
If I could speak to that issue too. First things first, mentioning the ARPA dollars, I think it's inappropriate for the acting mayor to be using the dollars in the way that he is. I think that the dollars should be limited in use so that whoever becomes the mayor on April 5th would be the individual that would be able to make those kind of decisions, especially because all of the dollars that are being used now are not being used in a way where the money makes money for us. This is one-time money. And we have to make money for us and be able to kind of like circulate more than one time. And so I am challenged by that. I also want to speak to the issue of properties, you know, being taken, and the city has had properties from years ago. The city has taken churches now, tax and take. And when they are taking churches now through tax and take, those are organizations that are helping us with some of the very supports that individuals in our communities need. There are elders who are losing their properties because of gentrification. So part of what I believe that we can do a better job in is not let properties sit for 3 years when foreclosures have been happening, so they just become dilapidated. This isn't something we have to wait on. This is something where we can use those as outdoor classrooms, not just for our young people. And I want to, make this point. It's not just the young people. it's their mothers and their fathers and their grannies and stuff too that need opportunity and access, because our young people often do what they see. And so if they have not seen opportunity exist, they only think that they can do what they see. So I just want to say that I believe that the city can do a better job with taking properties that the city owns, turn them into outdoor classrooms, to fix lead laterals, to train people to do that, because we don't have enough people doing that work. We can train people to know what to look for as city inspectors, because they have a shortage of city inspectors. And we can do some things to create help for our elders who are in homes. I think that we may even need to figure out how we can make it where our elders do not have to pay taxes in their homes in the same way. They've put a lot in over the years. And so I think the dollars can be used better. I think that they should be saved for 60 days from now when we know who the mayor is going to be, because all of the choices are not such that they are making money for us.
And just want to reiterate again that the American Rescue Plan was a relief that was supposed to go directly to the people. And when has anyone ever seen a public official put money directly in the hands of the people? And that's exactly what I would do with that money. Put it directly in the hands of the people.
If I may.
I'm going to ask that you hold the mic very
Yeah,
close.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Johnson.
If I may, I said my intention is to use those dollars. I'm not saying that that I am allocating those funds today. I'm not, and I can't, and I wouldn't, because the money hasn't even come to the city. The money doesn't come to the city until at least May, and it's potentially a window from May to June. So that is not something that's happening. On the issue of helping seniors to stay in their home, look, I want seniors to stay in their home too. That's why I was supportive of initiatives to create an anti-displacement fund for seniors that are being pushed out because of rising taxes, because of developments that are happening. I would like to see the city to be able to do more. Unfortunately, there is what's called a uniformity clause. It's not a city issue, it's a state issue. And the uniformity clause doesn't allow us to provide a different tax structure for anybody. It all has to be uniform. And so I would love to be able to do more. That's one of the reasons why we had this issue with the city attorney's office around the couture, because there was a desire to ask the developer there on that mega project to put more money into the anti-displacement fund so that we would help more seniors to be able to stay in their home, and I supported that.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the next question. What are the candidates' positions on our state's practice of sentencing juveniles to life or de facto life sentences in prison? Anyone want to grab that?
I will, but I would just like to make a point that the Constitution does say there's uniform property tax, and the seniors are being bullied out of their homes. Seniors who are done paying mortgages are being penalized. And I have with my Aisha for the People plan, a plan called Services for Seniors, where we exempt them from property taxes. They pay their dues. And so to state that, a uniform property tax and we don't do this and don't do that, seniors are being bullied out of their homes and being treated illegally by the city. As it relates to juveniles, I do not think juveniles should have life in prison. There's always a capacity for juveniles to grow. A lot of crimes are committed just because there's no common sense, just doing goofy little things, and then they're sent off into juvenile homes in which they are abused. We had a situation before where we had a number of juveniles being sexually assaulted, raped, different things of that nature. They're put in these juvenile homes, and then they're treated worse than seniors, adults are in prison. They strip them naked in the hole and make them sit there, they have different pods and some of these officials that work there will retaliate against these juveniles and put some juveniles in pods to literally be raped, and so a juvenile by law is not even supposed to be arrested. They're supposed to be detained and then they're supposed to be rehabilitated, and that's just not what's going on. And again, my juvenile justice jam is designed to break that pipeline to prison, to stop these different things of that nature. Thank you.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm also trying to give people, because they couldn't get into your online system, I'm trying to give them an opportunity, so forgive me, I'm moving my mic from Facebook so people go. So the first thing I want to say in regards to juvenile justice, thank you for this question. It truly is the issue of our future, what we do with our young people. When you look at who was a leader, a champion in moving the issues that Ms. Griffin just mentioned about our juveniles in our state facility, it was Senator Taylor, who was one of those individuals and who also went to the facility, who also put my eyes on what was happening, who also took service providers from our community to the facility. 25 individuals went with me, and what we did was provide services to individuals in the juvenile facility, while also simultaneously fighting for the state to close the facility. To this day, the facility is not closed. To this day, we have not done what the court required because the city blocked what needed to happen. What do I mean by that? First, the city would not cooperate with allowing the state or the county to see different sites that they needed to see in order to figure out where the juveniles should be placed. And it would take the now chief of staff for the county executive to be able to speak to that, but David Muhammad, who is the deputy of the Department of Health Services, could also speak to that. They had 60 or 70 sites they wanted to see. Because of the city dragging its feet, what happened is that the county proposal was kind of dismissed at the state level because they did not have a site. In addition, there's been a fight over the present site that the state owns and whether or not we should be able to place a facility there versus the contaminated site that the police academy is at and next door to it that the city has offered up and has refused to offer anything other than that site to the state. So as a result of that, the state is trying to close the Felmers Chaney facility, the only facility that allows for individuals to be in a work, what you call it, when you get out and go to work, I can't think of the word right now. Work release kind of concept, yeah. And so now the state is saying, well, since you won't give us a site, we're gonna tear down Chaney and build a juvenile facility there. And that's unfair. One, because we need that facility for people to have access to work. And second, because the state has land that could be used in the city. But to answer the exact question, I don't agree with life. I've fought against that. I've tried to do legislation in that regard, as well as the treatment of juveniles and how we do. We presently treat our juveniles like it's a mini adult facility in many ways. And so there's been some improvement under the present leadership, but we are not in compliance with what the court has required of the state. So thank you.
Did you want to answer this, Mr. Johnson? I understand you have to leave shortly, so I'm gonna have one more question for you and the group before you leave.
Sure, and thank you. No, I don't believe that young people should be subject to life in prison. Look, I'm sitting on this stage right now as the current mayor and a candidate for the office. I can tell you that I've not been a perfect kid growing up. And it's only because I've had the opportunity to have mentors and people who care about me in this community that I'm able to sit where I am today. So no, I don't believe that young people should be subject to life in prison, especially when they got their whole life ahead of them and have the opportunity to turn their lives around. Before I got into office, I had the opportunity to work in workforce development, including working with young people who had spent some time and had sentences up in Lincoln Hills, and I've been there. And it's a long way away from Milwaukee. You know, it's far in the far, north central part of the state, 4 hours away, as Senator Taylor, who I'm sure has also been there, can confirm. Yeah, and I can tell you that one of the things that I have been interested in, one of the things that I wanted to see, and is that facility to close and for those services to be brought closer to the city of Milwaukee. Because the kids who are there, if they're going to be able to turn their lives around and have the access to resources and mentorship and rehabilitation, it's going to work best when they are closer to home, and organizations that work with young people every day in Milwaukee have that access to those kids, when their families have access to those kids, and not have to get on a bus and ride 4 hours north in order to communicate with those young people. So no, I don't believe in a life sentence. I believe those services should be closer to home for our kids in the city of Milwaukee.
And I just want to interject, I think that we need to open up more group homes like the Curator System House. I used to work directly with Lieutenant Robinson on the case manager for juveniles. And the fact that we had meetings with families and understanding broken homes and dysfunction, different things of that nature, we were able to rehabilitate a lot of those juveniles successfully, the ones they never even wanted to touch. Work directly with them. And, a lot of them are suffering. Like I stated, a lot of them are victims and their voices are not being heard. On several occasions, I had juveniles coming to me, young males, telling me situations, they were in foster home, they were raped, different things of that nature. And every time I took it to a supervisor, oh, Miss Griffin don't believe them, they just like you because you're a woman, or Miss Griffin don't believe they try to respect you and show you this and that. And I would investigate personally these allegations, and they turned out to be true. And so if we open up these group homes again in the inner city and bring families connected, we can bust that pipeline to prison.
And if I could,
Can I move on?
Okay.
And I've been chastised for letting you guys talk. I've rather enjoyed it myself. Forgive me. There's a lot of questions coming up. What efforts, Miss? And I understand you have to leave shortly, Mayor Johnson. So what efforts are they currently engaged in to increase voter participation across the board, and especially in Black and Brown communities? What is each candidate's vision for the city, and how would you grade yourself, A, B, C, D, or F, by the area you are presently representing? So what are you doing to help increase voter participation? What's your vision for the city, and how would you grade yourself?
Yeah, in order to increase voter participation, as president of the county council, we work to accept millions of dollars in grants from federal sources in order to make sure that individuals in our city, especially in light of the pandemic that we are still going through, all of us are wearing masks on this stage right now, in order to increase the opportunity for people to vote and for the people who are working our polls to have safety. We accepted those grants. We gave poll workers a raise to encourage them to stay active so we wouldn't have to shrink the number of poll sites. We put in personal protective equipment to make sure that it was safe for the people who work in the polls as well as individuals coming to cast ballots. We increased access by making sure that individuals, especially in light of the pandemic, could get vote by mail and drop them off, not in the mail box where it takes a couple of days in order for those ballots to get back to the city, but putting drop boxes in at libraries across the entire city of Milwaukee so that folks could have their votes counted and for that to happen on time. Unfortunately, right now, I believe there's a judge in Waukesha County that has put an injunction forward, so that's not allowing for us to use the drop boxes in the way that we intended. There was a second and third part to your question. Can you repeat the second and third part?
What are you doing to increase voter participation, and how would you grade yourself in the areas that you currently represent?
Yeah, so right now, we're actively looking at that injunction that's in place right now, that's stopping individuals in our community from being able to have that access that I just talked about, so that individuals still in this pandemic will be able to use the vote by mail system to drop their ballots off without having to go to one of the poll sites. You gotta look at the fact that when our longtime elections commissioner left, we worked to get a new one installed. We worked to go from 5 polling sites back up to near 180 polling locations in the city of Milwaukee. So That's something that we actively worked on. And then to grade myself in the aldermanic district that I represented, look, we've had a lot of challenges, but we've also had a number of successes. I know the last time that I was here and we talked, there was conversation around what happened in Midtown, which is the economic heart of the second aldermanic district, and some might even say for the northwest side of the city. There certainly have been challenges there. You look at the Walmart that's there, that continues to be vacant. The store closed before I even got into office. And I've worked consistently over the years with the mall management, which has changed hands a number of times since I've been in office. So it's not even been consistency and leadership there. It's 160,000 square feet. It's a huge big box store. The legal way that they've structured it is if one person or one entity comes in to take even 1 square foot of the 160,000 square foot facility, they have to take it all. And that's difficult for folks to take on. And the fact of the matter is that Walmart location is still having the bill paid, the lease paid by Walmart up until October of this year. So we've had trouble with moving the mall ownership along because they have been getting a consistent check from Walmart, which has stopped other folks from coming in. And there have been consistent offers for storage facilities to come in. And I think that we can do better than that. I don't want to see a storage facility in the middle of Midtown. We have had other successes. The Lowe's, which was also vacant, 120,000 square feet. We got a Milwaukee-based business to come there to stop some of the bad stuff that was happening, which was dumping, drug use, prostitution, and the like. We got a Milwaukee business in there. They're creating job opportunities at that location. On the other side of the mall, Pick and Save, instead of shuttering their doors and creating a food desert, they invested $2 million in that location. Up the street, we worked with Aldi to invest $1 million in that location instead of closing and creating a food desert. The Lena's that closed not terribly far away in that same area, that building didn't stay vacant for long. Why? It's because we worked directly with the owners of the building and got Foreman Mills to bring in their first store in Wisconsin from the East Coast. So we've had a number of challenges, but we also have had a number of successes as well. And I apologize if I do have another commitment to that. So thank you all for allowing me to be here.
I would like to state that my vision for voter participation is truthfulness and transparency. I had to literally fight to get up here, even though I was the first person to turn in my nomination signatures. I was treated in a disparate treatment. I was made to stand outside of the office where the candidates were supposed to come in there, just because I'm not a particular group or what have you. We have another candidate in the audience right now, Brianna, who was a write-in candidate. She got nominations. She was treated the same way. I think that because Cavalier Johnson left, we have an open table. Let's give her courtesy, and she should come up here. She got just as much ideas as we do. But as far as grading myself, I would give myself an A+ in effort, because I went out there and even though I'm not a representative right now, I went out there and spoke to so many people. I'm a paralegal. I've done so much work where I've helped people represent themselves in court without lawyers, who run jury trials. You never ever heard of anything like this. Jury came back in 23 minutes, person facing 20 to 60 years, found not guilty. I did the voir dire, the questions. I witnessed a corrupt judge, Pedro Coleon, go back there and tell the jury that this person might end up pleading guilty just to get the inference that they were guilty. I've done a number of different things outside of politics and even within politics. Every day I'm going door to door. Right now I've tried to do radio ads, put a commercial in there. They won't even let me put an ad on the radio. This is because it's a serious race, and I'm representing Poor People's Piece of the Pie campaign. I was told that it might not even be legal for me to put an ad on the radio. Why don't they want to hear our voice? The poor people are a special group of people, because they are faced with hostility. They're faced with declining services at all, And if I'm mayor, I would have a zero tolerance of discrimination, long-term goals and plans for the people, always be inclusive of the people. So I would give myself an A for effort. And we just want to note that Cavalier did not grade himself, so maybe his grade is incomplete. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Taylor.
Okay, so first, what would I do, just to make sure I understand the question, what would I do to increase voter participation? or what have I done to increase voter participation, and how would I grade myself in regards to voter participation, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. So first of all, what have I done? I've been the person out there if individuals are having challenges when they are going to vote, who have been on the front lines, going to help to make sure that people have an opportunity to be heard. Making sure that individuals even know that there is an election. I started an effort where I told people about Ezekiel Gillespie. And I would go around and tell people about Ezekiel Gillespie, and that Ezekiel Gillespie is the first African American to fight for the right to vote in the state of Wisconsin, because in Milwaukee, he was denied the right to vote. And Ezekiel went all the way to the state Supreme Court and sued for the right to vote. So I educated people on the fact that it was a black man in 1865 that won a unanimous decision for the right to vote, and that he fought for the right to vote at a time that there was no Barack Obama, Gwen Moore, Lena Taylor, no black elected that was representing him, but he still wanted his voice to be heard. And so he fought. So doing creative things along those ways so that individuals know the importance of voting, that individuals have an opportunity to be engaged to vote. Those are the kinds of things that I've done and will continue to do. And when individuals are denied, I stood up and used my voice. What do I mean by that? When the city closed 175 polling locations, I was speaking to that issue when others were silent. And it was not okay. The election commissioner left and a new election commissioner came in, and that election commissioner left after the April 2020 election, because the truth of the matter is individuals went into polling locations illegally and were not prosecuted, and everybody at the city was silent. When 175 polling locations was done, everything was silent. When early voting was closed for nearly a week in Midtown, the highest turnout of all of the early voting sites in the now acting mayor's district. Everybody else was silent, and I spoke to those issues. So I give myself a A in my effort to move forward people's right to vote, to make sure that it is protected. And I've done it even in redistricting. Redistricting is another component of voter participation. Voters have the right to choose a candidate of their choosing. And you may not be engaged at the state, the county, or the city, or the school district level on redistricting, but I have. And at the county, I was the voice for people of color in particular, not just Black people, Asian people, Hispanic people, and don't get me wrong, I want all individuals I want to be an advocate for all individuals that have been, to be able to have their right to vote. There are individuals who did not get their ballots last time, and I was someone who fought for that. And last thing, when they tried to close Washington High School at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, I was present in that process. I wasn't present at the site, but I was present in the process to make sure that that illegal activity did not happen. So I'm not talking to you again about what I want to do as mayor in what I will do. These are the things that I have been doing as mayor and will continue, that I have been doing as senator, and will continue to do as mayor if I'm blessed to have that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Hill has informed me in the interest of democracy, and the other candidates haven't come yet for the next round. If the write-in candidate would like to join the session here and at least introduce himself and say a few words, that would be wonderful. If that's okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's step right up.
You can, take up your coat, come on. Take up your coat and stay with us. She sprayed it and everything. One second.
Good afternoon. Blessings to everyone in attendance here. My name is Brianna Bradford, and I'm registered as a write-in candidate for the 2022 mayor election. Me having an interest to join the race is just born off my own natural struggles that I have endured as a Wisconsinite, um, and having lack of resources and referrals to assist me throughout that process. So I'm here to campaign for change and create the change that we need. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Bradford, were there any good questions that particularly caught your ear that you might want to respond to while we got you?
Yes, there were a few that caught my attention, with the latest one being, how do we create the change for voter election, all inclusiveness. We have to just get more creative with that process. We have a lot of elderly that's at home and or disabled and different factors that prohibit them from getting out, whether it's snow or just a lack of energy. Well, like I said, let's get more creative and going to their doors, making sure that we have public safety to monitor the elections as we're going door to door and implementing different creative services for the process. Also, speaking on the volume of high car thefts within the city, that's challenging, but not where it can be a combated issue. I think one thing we have to implement is more resources and referrals for the youth. Like stated that they took away driver's education. However, it's in school but not eligible to everyone. There's still a fee that has to be paid. Well, if we waive that fee and make sure that each child that's of age gets that service, then that will reduce the fact that, they're driving it illegally. And not only just to get them with their driver license and such, but to actually allow them to work within those licenses with assisting different elderly to and from stores or appointments that they may need.
They asked about trash, boarded up buildings and small businesses, what you do.
Well, when it comes to the trash issue, no one wants to live in a dirty community. So we have to be more positive within ourselves and encourage others to just pick up. We have to also take the resources with the state having or the county having with the street sweepers and or just the trash men or women who's out there working their regular shift. Well, let's get some of these certified individuals to each one teach one and bring in different folks and young folks from the community to actually do their job and keep their community clean. And while we're doing so, let's compensate them for those actions as we're paid as individuals for our fees. Let's pay them for their work as well.
Brittany, can you please put the microphone closer to your mouth, please, and talk louder?
Better
Thank you.
now?
Yeah, and then juvenile justice, life sentences.
No one should get life behind bars when we're giving life out here within the community. It's unfortunate that things happen and we have to be held accountable. But when things happen, we can't create change, and that's where rehabilitation comes in. When it comes to the boarded up houses and different business facilities that's been sitting over years, where now it's time for us to put in a program where entrepreneurs can actually come to the county for assistance, give them their business plan, and receive the funds and the placement that they need to occupy the community vacancies.
It takes a lot of courage to run for office in particular. Specifically, it takes a lot of courage to run for mayor. So hats off to the three of you. Why did you decide to run as a write-in, Ms. Bradford?
Like I said, my lack of resources and referrals with my own struggles. I'm born and raised Wisconsinite here in the city of Milwaukee, and as I travel through Milwaukee, I see so much disparity, so much lost hope, and it's time for our generation to stand up and make that change, and that's what I'm here for.
I have a fresh question, and thank you, it's very gracious of you, Senator Taylor, to share the remarks or questions we had earlier. So I have a fresh question for the panel up there. This person from the audience says, I advocate for treatment for people with records. Will you establish, I'm guessing they mean police records. I got a lot Will you establish a civil rights or equal rights department in the city hall? We start with you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Griffin.
Definitely,
Ms. Bradford, too.
I work with a lot of people who've been convicted and different things of that nature. And a lot of convictions are not because people are guilty, it's because they pled guilty. A lot of ineffective assistance of counsel, a lot of corruption in the courtroom. You know, they call felons felons, even after they serve their time. Technically speaking, they're ex-felons. And that stigma means a lot. And then you have misinformation out here. Like, there was a situation with the shooting at Burger King. And this individual, he used his gun to try to stop the robbery. Now, this man wasn't a so-called felon. He'd be considered a hero. From my understanding, he had nothing to do with this crime. This is what I was told. Now, there's a law that says that a felon has a privilege to have a right to have a firearm, but you never speak on that. In a situation when they're not the perpetrators, when the situation calls for emergency use of firearm, they have a privilege for that. But to continuously punish a person for being a felon when they serve their time is discriminatory in itself. And one of my programs for the Aisha for the People Plan is called Mayor to Men, where I meet with the men in the city from young ages to seniors and try to destigmatize them, to rehabilitate their needs, different things of that nature. I just think it's a disservice to allow people to do so much time in prison and jail and then come out and still tell them you can't get housing if you're a felon. You can't get a job if you're a felon or what have you, different things of that nature. And so I definitely will work with people who've been convicted of felonies or misdemeanors or convictions overall. My door will always be open to the citizens because it's really their door. And my calendar constituent service days will always address the needs of the people, putting the people first. Thank you.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you so much for this question. I think this question goes to the heart of something that we need to do in the city of Milwaukee. I'm not certain how many of you are aware, but at one point we had like 6,000 people 1 year return from prison in the state. That was considered a lot because it's normally about 3,000 people that they say that return. And I remember when it happened because nothing happened. What do I mean? 6,000 people returning. The city did nothing to make sure that the state had did their role in the portfolios that I was able to help to implement that the state should be doing to confirm that we are doing them, because I would say that we are not. And when that happened and those individuals returned and they did not have the supports they needed, that's part of what makes public safety a challenge. If 60% of the people who come out go back in prison, it says that the system is broke. They didn't get what they needed when they went in, they're not getting what they needed when they came out, and they're not getting the services that they need so that they can stay out and succeed. So I think it was asked if I would do an equal rights division. So I want to speak to that. I don't know that I'll call it an equal rights division, but I will tell you that what I've done is to take the disparate effect that has happened in education, in voting, in healthcare, and several other areas, and I brought a coalition of people together, and we started what is called the EPC. And I always forget what it stands for because we didn't change the names 3 times, but like the equity. Oh, let me not trip over myself. But the individuals that have come together and helped with that, we've gone to the county to try to get the county to implement what is equivalent to an EEOC commission or department, like what we have at the state level, to be able to challenge disparities that individuals experience. We've not had success with the county executive doing that, and we could not get success with the former administration on doing it at the city level. But the reason we did it is because disparate effects exist for individuals in the claims that can happen with the EEOC, and all of the stuff that Ms. Griffin said is true, including disparate effect for people in housing with felonies, opportunity to get jobs, all of those issues. So I will create a department that looks at what is happening with people who have been touched by the justice system, as well as the disparate effects that we spoke to. And the reason I will do that is because so many people are returning. We don't get our dollars that are due us during the census. They're counted in the prison, not the community that they came from. So the money to help victims, the money to help deal with the remnants, for lack of a better way to say it, of what crimes happen, we don't have those dollars. Those dollars go to the community of the prison. So I want to see us deal with the issue of gerrymandering of prisoners, and so that they can be counted in the communities that they come from, so that we can have those dollars. I want to create a department that looks at when individuals are returning. Has the portfolio been done? And if not, what do we have to do as a community in order to prepare them for success? So I can turn to the state and say, I calculated the dollars that we had to spend and try to use that to advocate for the state to do different things than we presently are.
Thank you. Ms. Bradford?
And I will hire people. I'm sorry, Ms. Bradford. I will hire people who have re-entered also, because I think that we need to lead by example.
Absolutely. I just want to say yes, if I was elected to make office, I would implement a system for offenders, both male and female. As we know, money can change our circumstances, and it could be the change of good or the change of bad, which goes to show how some individuals may be representative. Well, the system for change will actually appoint each offender a one-on-one counselor to work with from the beginning to the end of their process of their sentencing time, making sure while they're away, they're rehabilitated in a positive manner and a demeanor that would allow them to prosper once back into the community. And not only that, to appoint equality to all as they're being sentenced to their time.
Thank you. This question is back to the, related to the Milwaukee police. It says here that the Milwaukee police rate of vaccination is currently unknown. It's been estimated to be about 50%. What would you do to make sure that there's transparency, and what would you do to make sure that police become vaccinated if you were elected?
Well, I think that vaccination is a personal choice, personally. The science is just not there about the effectiveness of these vaccinations. And I think it's a lot of hype and a lot of fear in the community in regards to this COVID-19 virus, and that a lot of people are jumping the gun. And I think that if the city is going to force people to have vaccinations, they should do like the federal government. If there's an adverse reaction to that vaccination, they have to pay people. You know, there's a court right now, a federal court that constantly has to pay people because vaccinations have a lot of adverse reactions and long-term effects. You know, and we can't say that we can follow the science of this vaccination because the science is being prohibited to the people. So I think vaccination is a personal choice, and that I would not hold the police nor anyone in a penalty phase if they chose not to receive a vaccination, especially a vaccination that's technically not even approved by the FDA. You know, this is an experiment of vaccination for emergency uses, you know. And so I wouldn't force upon people something that we're just not sure the long-term effects or the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Taylor.
Thank you. First things first, you know, we're 2 years almost into this pandemic. And one of the things that I learned is that there's a lot of opinions around vaccines, as well as around mask wearing and all of that. And I do believe in people's right to choose. There's no question about that. But I do believe that we have to use credible messengers to be able to help move people at this point. I think of, I know this may sound a little silly, but I think of when I was a teenager. And you know, when you told your teenager what not to do, guess what they wanted to do? What you told them not to do. And so I believe it's really important that we educate individuals and that we use credible messengers to be able to move people into being vaccinated. I know that there's been court cases that have articulated that mandates are not being upheld federally. The president's mandate was not upheld. And so it is concerning that individuals make the choice when they have to go in the public and they have to be around individuals in a job like law enforcement, to what Ms. Griffin said, a necessity that we have to have in our community. But I'm troubled with making a mandate for individuals to do that, because I believe in some exceptions to that, whether it be based on faith, whether it be based on your medical conditions. And I don't know that a mandate will be upheld in court. So I want to do the other things that tell people also, in addition to that, that tell people about what you need to do to prevent disease transmission. What can we do to help people to know that the science is there and to help them to see that the science is there? I don't know. I'm of the belief system that if you educate folks and you give them credible messengers and individuals to help them to know that people will make the right choice for their health and for their community and their family. And I grew up around people who said you get more with honey than vinegar.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bradford?
I would have to agree with these two ladies, where getting a vaccine is your personal choice, just like you get some choose your clothes. No one will find the same clothes. So I would leave it up to each individual to select whether they want to be vaccinated or not. Nevertheless, I will put in place not just different slogans and campaigns, but actually lead by example to educate people of how we can prevent the transmission of this virus, and not just say, oh, we're going to put a mask mandate in place, but nevertheless actually provide masks and gloves to every individual at no cost to ensure that we're keeping our germs to ourselves or flushing them down the drain.
I just want to reiterate that the science is not there as it relates to the effectiveness of this vaccine. And it's right now, they're fighting to release that science, and those who are behind telling people to get the vaccine and what have you, they will not even qualify as experts under the Dahlberg Doctrine. The Dahlberg Doctrine says you must show the right era, how you're an expert in this situation. And right now, the CDC gives out recommendations, and the recommendation is not law, it's not fact, it's not binding. And so I'm stating that people should have their constitutional rights upheld, and that's why people like Biden mandates are not passing in court, because your constitutional rights are yours and yours personally. And no matter what we go through, they're not to be violated or suspended. And so this is why I believe that I do not support penalizing or forcing someone to get a vaccine when it's not even going to be upheld in court throughout the line anyway.
Can I add one thing?
Very quickly.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring the
Take a
mask mandate issue up. And I want to be able to say, neither do I believe that it is appropriate to have our business owners be the individuals that are policing people on this issue. We already know we don't have enough law enforcement to deal with so many other issues, they say. So law enforcement isn't going to be enforcing it. And business owners who need individuals to come in their businesses and have been greatly affected by this pandemic, I'm challenged by that. So I want to encourage our people to be the individuals, to be the change that we want to see. I want to encourage our people to I want to help them have the resources that they need, but I want to encourage them with the information that they need so that people will make the choices that they need to make to help us to be our healthiest in our community.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the people that are watching, live streaming. Be sure to share this. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break, so we'll give you time to share this with other people throughout the city. We're joined for our second round here, again with Ms. Senator Lena Taylor and Ms. Aisha Griffin, and we'll be joined by Alderperson Mariana Dimitrievich.
Oh, wait for it.
I practiced that with Mariana.
Beautiful, thank you. Marina.
You said Marina. I was worried about the last name, Marina.
Marina.
Yes.
Okay, I spelled it M-I-R-A-N-A.
Marina.
Okay, I was trying to say it in Spanish, I guess. Okay, great. And so the first question that we asked our other panelists, Marina, was the most obvious, and why is it that you decided to run for mayor?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Marina Dimitrievich, Milwaukee Alderwoman. I was more hung up on the last name than the first name. It's nice to be here. I'm so honored to be part of this historic election. We're going to have change no matter what. After decades of one way and over 100 years of just a couple mayors. Why I'm running for mayor is because I love the city of Milwaukee. I'm born and raised here, went to Milwaukee Public Schools. My kids are in Milwaukee Public Schools. Served on the county board, where I know many of you from, for many, many years, county board chairwoman, and now I'm a Milwaukee Alderwoman elected during this pandemic. And I do represent the South Side and Bayview neighborhoods. And I've done all that it's been about 18 years. I also am a mother to a 5 and 3-year-old. I have a stepdaughter as well. And so that means as a mother, I'm constantly thinking about the future every single day for them and for every child in the city of Milwaukee. We're at a crossroads. We need bold actions and innovative solutions to challenge the status quo. That's what I'm running for, is to challenge the status quo. It only took me these 2 years in City Hall to see that even before the pandemic, things were not working for most people in the city of Milwaukee. And what I say is that it's not enough to just come out of the pandemic and be like, woof, we made it. Because again, like I said, before the pandemic, things were not working for the majority of Milwaukeeans. So why I'm running is because I love the city of Milwaukee. I do feel, just like everybody up on the stage, that I have the experience, and I do have the vision. And my last point is, for some of the challenges that I've suggested, that to challenge the status quo and to change things for people, specifically working families, we have a unique opportunity in the city of Milwaukee where it's been a long couple of years in the pandemic, but federal relief is on the way. Hundreds of millions of dollars in the infrastructure bill, the COVID relief known as ARPA, the American Rescue Plan, as well as the Build Back Better America. And why I gotta bring that up is that it's hundreds of millions of dollars to finally invest in our city, not just to change the city of Milwaukee, but the lives of the residents in the city of Milwaukee. With that type of money that we'll never see again, I believe probably in our generation, we can improve wages, housing, decrease infant mortality, help our public schools. I could go on and on and on. I won't at this time, but I want you to know that with that help on the way, we should make sure that the next mayor of Milwaukee has a great plan to invest that money and really change people's lives. So that's the reason that I'm running for mayor of Milwaukee.
Can I just say that if you love the city of Milwaukee, you gotta love the status quo, you know, and I'm definitely not running because I love the city of Milwaukee. I don't like what's going on. You know, the conditions, the discrimination, different things of that nature, you know, and sometimes having a plan is worse than having no plan at all. It maintains the status quo of inequality and inhumane conditions, you know, so it's kind of hard to love the city and not, you know, want to maintain the status quo. You definitely don't want to maintain the status quo, and you just can't love the city and its conditions, you know, if you want to change what's going on. I don't think a reason to run is because of love of the city. I'm running because of the lack of services, and I believe personally that I can do more for the people in fighting discrimination, and will do more for the people in fighting discrimination and lack of services and the repeated ineffectiveness within 2 years than Barron has done in 17, if elected.
That's actually a beautiful segue into this very next question. I think I could have asked, drafted this question, is what do you intend to do to make the whole of the city better and not just downtown or the Marquette University area? What services would you bring to the inner city, both north and south side, that are currently desperately needed? And you want to go first, Mr. Mitchell?
Okay. Sorry, I just wasn't sure
Okay,
exactly the format because
that's fine.
so is each question coming to me then, or?
No.
You? Okay.
We'll get a chance to
Okay.
share more.
Just want to understand and be ready. Well, thank you for that question. It is a good segue, and I do see the points that were raised by Ms. Griffin. Well, a couple of things. I think I get asked that a lot about the development in downtown and focus on downtown. My answer is I would like to see both. I think we can do two things at once. I don't think it's fair to choose just one, only downtown or only within the neighborhoods. Personally, I'd like to see both. I do think downtown it's a catalyst. It's important to any thriving urban environment, but it certainly cannot feel that it's at the cost of our neighborhoods. I mean, our neighborhoods are what makes Milwaukee amazing. The fact that you can be 15, 20, 30 minutes from downtown in any part of Milwaukee is really awesome. But like was mentioned, let's be honest, it doesn't feel the same in every part of the neighborhood. It doesn't feel the same in every part of the city of Milwaukee. One thing that I'm saying is a slogan I have, and I realize that it's part of a vision, you have to get it done, is we are one. It shouldn't feel like 5 or 6 different Milwaukees in one Milwaukee. It's not right. And that's what I meant when I'm saying that I love the city. I love the city more than anything. I'll defend it at any moment. But of course, we got work to do. And so when you ask specifically what that would mean, challenging the status quo and doing things different, one thing that is incredibly important to me, and I have a record on at the county and the city, is housing. So when I mentioned that about the federal funding, hundreds of millions of dollars. Me as alderwoman just voted on a package that put tens of millions of dollars in the housing trust fund and other housing opportunities in the city of Milwaukee. Housing to me is a human right. If every Milwaukeean had the availability and accessibility of safe, quality, affordable housing, and when I say safe and quality, I mean the fact that it's free of lead paint, that it's a good house that feels stable, whether you're renting or buying. And if that fundamental right, that basic human need, was met for everyone in the city of Milwaukee, I believe it would attack the economic and racial injustices that we have and we've been experiencing for years. So when you talk about what I'm going to do in the downtown neighborhoods and the city neighborhoods, that's what I really want to get at. A huge part of my platform is housing, because it's a crisis that we have, and a crisis that is uniquely terrible to the city of Milwaukee when you look at the whole nation. And we now have the resources that we never had before to finally move the dial on that.
Thank you. Another question that came up earlier,
Do we get to?
sure, if you want to expand on it, let's try to keep it brief. We got about 50 minutes left for this session.
I agree, housing, but entrepreneurship, we can't move this city forward out of the poverty that it's in and the challenges that exist because people have not had opportunity if we do not change that. And so key for me would be to make our city a destination, not just using green jobs and agriculture as a cornerstone to that, but making sure that apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships exist in the pathways to not just work, but to entrepreneurship and home ownership. Those are the key things that you will see in my administration through a model that I call the Love and Faith Initiative that I shared with the administration, the prior administration, and several of the electeds, actually before you got on the Common Council for about a decade.
And I just want, in a nutshell, say that, I would, my issue for the people plan, I have a TCB committee, take care of business committees, where we don't just talk about issues and look at the issues. We have resolution, to resolve the issues. I would have a zero tolerance for discrimination and equality in services, prompt and courteous equality, as a matter of fact. Again, stating that poor people, they experience hostility in the government and services are either scarce or not there, and so with my TCB committee and my issue for the people plan, I think that the capacity for growth for the city of Milwaukee will be historic, to say the least. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question. I was also asked by a wonderful citizen, longtime resident of Milwaukee, if like maybe right before you answer, pull down your mask and then put it back up. She said, people want to see your faces. So how do we feel about that? Okay, just quick, pull it down and then put it back up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good? Okay, very good. Okay, here's the next question from another outstanding citizen. What are your thoughts and plans for the Office of Violence Prevention and how can it be utilized, the Office of Violence Prevention? Councilor Cohen, Senator Taylor, we'll go from
Thank you. I believe the Office of Violence Prevention plays a role in how we move forward in this city. They did take the time to spend a lot of money to do a plan and to print it out, and they call it the blueprint for peace. I don't believe that it is the end all or be all. I don't believe that it doesn't need to be augmented, but I do believe that the office is a resource through the Department of Health to do what the My Brother's Keepers told us before we had the Office of Violence Prevention, which is we should create community health workers. And in particular, they said that we should do it with the population of Black men in particular. And they in particular tried to take the fatherhood initiative and to merge those things together in the city. So for me, I would implement something to utilize the Office of Violence Prevention and credible messengers to help us with health. We talked about the issue earlier about the mandate and about masks as well as vaccines. And I believe that that's the role that not only the Office of Violence Prevention can be a part of, but the Fatherhood Initiative can be a part of. It shouldn't just be a summit one time. It should be all the time, trying to help move our community's literacy level to a different level, a different place. And the Office of Violence Prevention, I think, can not only prevent some stuff by having credible messengers go out, but they also can be the individuals at the scenes to help, I'm gonna say, bring a little more calmness or peace. I've been a part of seeing that happen. So I agree with the Office of Violence Prevention. I will augment some things to make it more like the Love and Faith Initiative, and to make it more connect to work also. But I think it's a useful department.
Great, Alderperson, Demetri.
Okay, thank you. Maybe it's a little better. Just trying to protect everybody because we're all out here too, but I appreciate it. I want people to be able to see me too, and I'm happy to see you all. When it comes to the Office of Violence Prevention, this is a position that I'm very proud of. I authored, along with Alderwoman Milele Cogs, one of the largest investments in our Office of Violence Prevention. She was a sponsor and I was the number 2. I'm the chairwoman of the Public Safety and Health Committee. 16.8 million was one of the largest amounts of money that we would ever give the Office of Violence Prevention. And that was met with, I want to say it was about 8 million or so from Governor Tony Evers too. I believe in every dollar to go into that Office of Violence Prevention and to aggressively implement that blueprint for peace. We're already working on it, but we're not working fast enough. I thoroughly believe that violence prevention is the way to go. When we invest in prevention, it prevents pain, suffering, trauma, and when we can prevent that from happening, it also saves money. It is less expensive than reacting to violence. During this pandemic, we've seen an increase in gun purchases, and obviously, we're all feeling an increase in just general violence and homicide and reckless driving, which is completely unacceptable. If we can prevent those things from happening, I'll just tell you one view on reckless driving. I've called for universal and free driver's education for every child of age in the Milwaukee Public Schools. If we can make that free and accessible to every child and student. Because I remember I went to Milwaukee Public Schools, maybe you got in the slot, maybe you didn't, or maybe you had to pay on the side a private company, which is very expensive. But if we start with that value early on as part of the core curriculum, and it's free and universal, that's how we can prevent things from happening. It's not the only thing, like Senator Taylor said. But I am offering to you that with that blueprint for peace, with the Office of Violence Prevention, which is doing innovative work, the disruptor model, the life navigators, 414, disrupting that cycle of violence. We know that when family and friends have a violent act that is committed within a family with a gun, unfortunately that does produce another cycle of violence. We can disrupt it and stop it. It is a health crisis. That's why it's in the health department. So I feel really strongly about this, and I think investing in the root causes and our Office of Violence Prevention, which has done revolutionary work, is a model to go, and it's the way that I want to see the city move forward.
And I think that the Office of Violence Prevention should encompass all violence, not just what we choose to point out. Contrary to police, homicides are the lowest form of violence. Suicide is 71% higher than homicides. So we need to look at all those demographics as well as police violence. We need sensitivity training with police. you know, so I think the office should be used to, effectuate change in all those areas and to deal with each one accordingly.
And then you,
If I could just add one thing, when you mentioned, the money that Governor Evers did, in the same way that you authored it with, Alderwoman Cobb's, I authored with, Representative Bowen for the state to fund the Office of Violence Prevention. And in the end, I think we have to make sure that whatever dollars we get, that those dollars are also disseminated into the community appropriately. What we also find is that the state and the city, and sometimes the county is considered the better in that, is that we do not disseminate dollars into the Black and brown communities effectively. And so I just want to make sure that whatever the Office of Violence Prevention gets, or for that matter, any city department, that there is a better distribution. Same way downtown got done, but neighborhoods didn't. There is an issue with equity in distribution of funds. And so that is a concern that I want to make sure happens with the Office of Violence Prevention, that we're using people on the front lines, like ironically in front, comm forces here. Those are individuals who are often on the front line. They're not getting the money.
and Ms. Griffin has segued another question that we asked earlier, and I'm asking again, it's involving police-community relations. What is your outlook to improve police-community relations? And that currently, community groups are calling for a proposed reform for the Fire and Police Commission to require Milwaukee Police Department to release footage of all police-involved shootings and alleged misconduct within 48 hours. The names of the officers involved in the shootings, the names be released within 24 hours and the video be released within 48 hours. What's your stand on this? Should we start with,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. This is a great question for mayoral candidates, really, and anybody in city government. Our Fire and Police Commission is one of the strongest, most independent of its kind in the nation, being civilian-led. And the next mayor will have complete appointing authority. Now, of course, it has to be approved by the county council. But to pick and choose who's on that commission is incredibly important. As we know, that is the body that picks and chooses and hires and fires the chief of police and anything that comes before that body. In fact, I often get asked as an alderwoman, could we be the one that bans the chokehold, et cetera? It actually has to go to the Fire and Police Commission, as you all know. So I just wanted to emphasize how important that is. And I'm committed as a mayoral candidate when it comes to the Fire and Police Commission, if I am mayor, to be sure that Fire and Police Commission reflects our community. And what I mean by that is diversity in all shapes and forms, of course, gender, racial, geographic, but also in background and being community members, civilians. Sure, some people with law enforcement background, but it's really got to be the face of the community, accessible, transparent, and we got to feel connected. We just recently, in the changes to the Fire and Police Commission, put out the public information so people could contact the folks on the commission. We had a giant change of who's serving on that commission, and I am hopeful. They did vote to ban chokeholds, which was exceptional and should have been done a long time ago. I've testified before the Fire and Police Commission prior to being an alderwoman about changes of how we deal with our immigrant community, which is very important. And so I do think that body is where we need to invest more resources, city resources, so they can staff and do proactive audits of people that have had complaints. If you make a citizen complaint, making sure that that's audited and inspected as soon as possible. We know there were a high number, especially during the protests. But when you talk about building community and police relations, we do have a new chief of police who's from Milwaukee. I'm hopeful that he can work to continue to implement the community policing model, which really is based in trust. We have to have trust. If people don't feel comfortable calling the police, or that and the call times. That's another issue. It's not directly with the Fire and Police Commission, but we know the call times are not right. And that's just standard. And what happens when you're waiting on the non-emergency line? We know, I'm telling you, I'm getting the calls too. Then people call 911 because a non-emergency turns emergency. This is all about relationships and trust. And we got a lot of work to do. Specifically on your question on the 48-hour footage, I completely support that. That information should be immediately turned over and be made public. In fact, at the county, I have a record. I support body cameras. This is all public service and it should be transparent. And that is on that road that I talked about to building those relationships. And it's a two-way street between both police and the people that are served.
And just to reiterate what I said before, I'm definitely for, the release of body cameras and different things of that nature, but even further, we need to hold police accountable for writing false police reports. They're used in court. We need to hold police accountable for violating people's rights when they want to remain silent. So it's a lot of different things that's going on in the police department that we just have to clean up. The police are not above the law. They have to act within accordance to the law. And I'm definitely for, again, sensitivity training for police and further training, and not to give police a bad rap, but it's a fact that police misconduct is high in the city of Milwaukee and on the list of the nation as a whole.
Did you want to add, Senator Taylor?
Yes, please. Thank you. So I too agree with the things that have been said. I want to have an administration that supports transparency and inclusion, period, across every department, including the police department. And so when you ask about police community relations, I've been a champion and a leader in this issue. Whether it was when Derek Williams was in the back of the squad asking and saying, I can't breathe, before there was an Eric Garner. Or if you're going with Dontre Hamilton and what happened in that situation and asking for there to be mental health training and de-escalation training. Or when the ACLU and DOJ came, I not only testified, but I've also been pressing for us to meet those recommendations and those requirements that we still are not meeting as a city and on our police force. But I've also been a champion for resources to the police department, whether it's spot shotter, I think it's called. I'm calling it the wrong thing so they can know where the shots are in the city, shot spot in the city, or for that matter, whether it has been trying to be creative on what we can do to create diversity and inclusion on the police force and in the fire department. Those are very important issues, and we have to not only encourage our young people and get them engaged, but we also have to make sure that when they get there, that when they're going through the process, that they can get hired in the process. So I'll end with the three main pieces I want to see happen that a mayor can do in with the police force is to make sure that the appointments that are with the Fire and Police Commission are done. There are 2 positions that we have had for more than 10 years that we have not had citizens appointed to. The mayor has the ability to do it, may appoint. Those are 2 citizens that could be individuals that have been touched by the system, or for that matter, how about young people being appointed to the Fire and Police Commission so that we're getting the different views and the different voices to be a part. The High Point, North Carolina model, I call it, let's make a deal. Door number 1, door number 2. We have the intelligence to send you to prison. But in a restorative justice model with the community, with law enforcement, with your family, and with community nonprofits and organizations, probably with the Office of Violence Prevention helping to make this happen, that we say door number 2, we have resources and a pathway to empowerment for you so that you do not have to make the choices like driving through a drive-through to rob it where your daughter works, right? And then the last thing outside of the High Point, North Carolina and the Cop House model is the most important piece, is empowering the Fire and Police Commission to do its job. It's not independent. And the reason it's not, because the executive director is in the mayor's cabinet. Now, do I believe that the executive director should meet with the mayor? I do. But I believe they should be independent and that executive director should not be in the cabinet. I don't believe that they should be in the cabinet. That's why I am the only individual that's in the race that has actually done legislation to transform the Fire and Police Commission from day one of being elected, including for the things that the Alderwoman has mentioned. She's spot on. Citizen complaints need to be responded to. It's why I changed the legislation for that to happen and why I will be a force
on this issue of the Fire and Police Commission having the power that it needs. I look forward to working with the Alderwoman on making sure that the kind of funding that the agency needs so they can do the investigations and they can get to results and solutions.
At this point, we'd like to invite Ms. Bradford back up to the panel. She's running for mayor as a write-in. Next question. What programs are available for the mentally challenged individuals and their safety? What are your plans to address the stigma surrounding receiving mental health treatment in our communities? And secondly, what are their plans to make it more affordable and by extension, more accessible? Grab that one.
I think that, as far as the mental health program, that's a sensitive topic because you can easily stigmatize somebody and say they need mental health, and it's not even that situation, you know, and that hits close to home because my daughter was victimized. She had the highest GPA in the city of Milwaukee, excellent person, different things of that nature, and she was trying to get help from being victimized and withheld against her will, and they just injected my daughter with 21 different fatal mental medications she's never ever had in her life. And I literally went broke to help my daughter to detox her from those things of that nature, and she just sit back and wonder why they did it to her. Mom, why they do this to me? You know, everything of that nature. And I found out they have somebody that was once called in another state a danger to society, a doctor, is in a mental health facility. And the attorney general in another state called him the most dangerous threat to patients and different things of that nature, and he was getting paid under the table to inject people, you know, and I filed things against him, and the city has hired this man. You know, he's responsible for multiple deaths, you know, in regards to injecting people. So I don't think we could just stigmatize people. You know, my daughter was one test away from getting a real estate license. She had the highest GPA in the city of Milwaukee when she graduated from high school, where they literally punished her for graduating early. The most respectful, sweetest person I know, you know, and to look at her every day and to think about the things that she's been through, just because she was falsely accused of something, because she fought back. And this doctor got upset every time the medicine didn't work, to inject her more, you know, and then to get assaulted, you know, and then they try to keep me away from my daughter. And so we have to look at the whole spectrum, not just saying people need help, but what about holding people accountable when you falsely accuse people, when you destroy people's lives, you know? And those that do need help, we have to look at the effects of what we're giving them and try to be as less restrictive as possible. There are families right now who have people in mental health facilities who cannot even visit their family member, and the law says they have right to visitation. You know, they're being abused in these places. So, you know, we gotta look at the dirty laundry in a lot of these situations and not just try to paint a perfect picture. You know, and going back to something Lena said about door number one, door number two, you cannot just assume people are guilty. You know, that's why the Constitution says you're innocent until proven guilty. We must be sensitive to what situations. We must hear people out. And we must hold people accountable when they're not in compliance with the law.
We might keep moving to the left. Alderperson Denise.
Okay, wow. I'm very sorry to hear about that. As a mom, that's terrible. It's hard to gather yourself after that. So when it comes to mental health, I think many of the things that the city deals with, as we see, are federal and societal breakdowns. I mean, when mental health in many times is not considered a core part of just primary health care, and what we've learned in this pandemic is that, and I talk a lot about the pandemic, is people just don't still, to this day, like you said, painting a picture, have access to basic, affordable, quality, primary health care. And without that relationship, that constant, you know, going in, being checked out, having that relationship to be proactive and preventative, something's not right. And we had the pandemic, which is so stressful. If we had challenges before, even myself, I mean, I'm getting anxious every single day. You can't help it. I'm worried about my kid and MTS classrooms, and all children, you know, that have gone back this week and whatnot. So I do think that makes us great leaders, that we're concerned in the care, and I have to speak from the mother's point of view too, because I think about, like I said, my child and all children. But again, it's back to the changes and the systemic failures nationally, that until we confront those as a nation, they certainly trickle down locally. And that doesn't mean I'm just passing the buck. I mean, we've got some work to do. And so what I want to say about access to health care and to mental health, we have one of the largest health departments in the state of Wisconsin. And what I want to do as mayor is continue to expand that. So we talked about how violence prevention, the offices within the health department right now. But I believe we've had new relationships now where we're vaccinating folks. We're doing things in this pandemic that we never thought we would do. People thought it was radical that we would be sending money to folks in their bank accounts. When we talk about things like, you know what I'm saying, about universal basic income, things that we never thought we would do. And now we're used to it. Delivering food to people in need at their doorstep, especially seniors when they couldn't get out during the pandemic. Giving hotspots to children and families that needed Wi-Fi when we were virtually schooling. These are things that we could have done before, and now we got pushed to the edge. You see what I'm saying? And so my point about that is the same thing with mental health and health resources. If we can go around in a bus and a van and try to vaccinate folks if they're ready for it, and we can think about this. Here's another point. If the federal government can send us medical supplies for free, the at-home COVID rapid test kits. Anybody watching, please order yours. You get 4 for free. My point is that in these dark days of the pandemic, we're seeing some things medically that we've never seen before. Bad times, but good times too. So we certainly could use that same system in theory to do things we haven't done before. And I do think it's a calling to do that. And whereas specifically in one with our health department in the city of Milwaukee, you're going to see an expansion because of the federal COVID relief money. This is the time where we can do more. We can do more community-based model of healthcare. And my last point is, I think we can also use our public schools in the community schools model. Is where we're all at. So if there's, continued increase in nurse programs there, checks, mental health checks, that's where families are every single day. Whether we like it or not, we're there. Our kids are in the schools. And I use that as public because that's where public resources are right now. And so I think it's a real opportunity to continue to check in with folks on a ground level. We're with them every single day.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you. So what would I do to help with mental health services? Is that correct?
Yes.
In the city of Milwaukee.
And what are your plans to make it more affordable and by extension more accessible?
So one, I don't get to choose the cost of health services in the city of Milwaukee, but trying to be innovative and think out of the box, and I think is crucial, because one of the things that I will say to you and why in the Love and Faith Initiative I speak about it is for health and wealth, this model. It's similar to the community school model, but what it is more than the community school model is it also helps people to go on pathways for empowerment, for both services, for opportunity, both of those things, and opportunities in work as well as in entrepreneurship and home ownership. So, what I would do is what I'm already doing, I would continue. One is working with the EPC group that I mentioned to individuals previously. There is the disparate effect that the Alderwoman has spoke about that exists for individuals in mental health. If you look at the map shows you that individuals who need AODA or mental health services, it shows you on the map like where all that is. And guess what? It also shows you on the map where there isn't services. And guess where that's at? Right here. That there isn't the amount of services available for the amount of the need. So what we have done is talk not only with the city, not only with the county, but also with the state to say, what can we do to push for someone to hold these health organizations accountable? I want to tell you that's not been an easy process, going against the big networks and going against them in that fashion. But working with organizations to speak up and to show that and to not be silent, but to do the clarion call that something needs to change is what I've helped people on the ground do. What we can also do differently is create health circles for lack of better, healing circles. That's something that I'd like to see us do in these hubs and in communities. Homicides, off the charts. Trauma in this community, off the charts. PTSD, off the charts. PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. If you've heard about Joy DeGruy, Dr. Joy DeGruy, you will know what that means. Isolation in the middle of the pandemic. Mass incarceration and the effect what that creates when individuals are not getting out to participate outside or not being able to do things. It grows, in my opinion, mental health challenges and the anxiety that the Alderwoman has mentioned. All of that. When we saw what happened to the young lady in the Burger King incident, regardless if she was or was not, her family says she was not involved in the process, the trauma that we see in the news, that affects all of us. And that trauma is mental health. And that is an issue that we have not taken on seriously in this city, coupled with lead in the water and you name it. So what I would do is to make sure that we ramp up even ways that our community and individuals that provide those services can do healing circles in hubs in our community, but we can also advocate for equity in services, and I want to use the bully pulpit in that way.
Ms. Bradford.
So when it comes to mental health, I think it has to be taken into consideration on a variety of levels, only because there's various of different mental health challenges, PTSD, ODD, ADHD, and so on. So with that being said, we have, and whether we're directly affected or indirectly affected, we have to think about better testing, better evaluations, and better sources outside of medications that will allow one to combat these issues that they're going through, and work as a community to do so, and appoint individuals, one-on-one counselors to foresee them through that process.
And I just want to reiterate, I just want to ask, the panelists, do you all pledge to hold them accountable when there's disservices? Because in the mental health facility, do you know they will not take certain people if they don't have certain insurance? There's a lot of money in there. And the longer they hold these people, the more money they get. And so it's a lot of incentives to falsely accuse people. So do you not just say that I will do this, but do you also pledge to hold people accountable? Because it's a sensitive subject and it can destroy lives, literally. And the corruption that's in that field is unbelievable. And so as myself, I pledge to hold the government and every department in Milwaukee and the city of Milwaukee accountable when there's a disservice. And we got to talk about that, not just what we're going to do to try to make things right, but also holding the government accountable for this service that continues to go on.
All right, everybody raise your right hand. I'm sure that the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Across the board. Great question, by the way.
Not only yes, but that's what the EPC group that I pulled together, not just what I will do, that's what the EPC group that I pulled together, who contacted my office through constituent relations, saying that they had issues. And as a result of that, I worked with individuals. We are so siloed in this community. And so trying to align people. So I feel you completely. That's exactly what the doctors came and said. That's exactly what individuals were saying about they're told that they can't open a business to provide those services because it's saturated in our area, even though the map shows that it's not. Individuals who were told to get someone to help with mental health services, that they had to wait 6 months to get an appointment, or go to Racine to meet with somebody. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. So I hear you. I've been doing that work. I will continue to do that work. And that's what I meant when I was talking about using the office, the bully pulpit in whatever capacity we can to get equity for our people.
Anyone else on the pledge? You good? Okay, thank you. From one of our guests here today, public education has not been mentioned at this forum. How would you address public education, and how would you, as mayor, work with the Milwaukee Public School System?
Well, the power of education is not just in one, department, they spread it out. But, I definitely work with, different groups and different, sectors in the state. I believe in choice, I believe in virtue, I believe in parents' right to choose, and I think that the, public school system right now is horrible. They have not even updated the education, curriculum, different things of that nature. It's not to blame the teachers, it's to blame those who are in control of the curriculum, and like I said before, one of the things they do in Milwaukee, they will penalize you if you graduate early. Like I said, my daughter graduated 2.5 years in high school, highest GPA in the city. They did not give her a scholarship. You're supposed to get a scholarship if you have the highest GPA. They gave it to somebody who had a 0.4, who never even used the scholarship. And so that needs to be removed. You should not, you can go to suburbs and they will actually, give incentives to their students to graduate early. Here, they don't do that, So we need to look at a lot of different things. We need to look at other options and different things of that nature. I'm always willing to work with the spectrum across the board to make sure that happens.
Yes, as I alluded to earlier, but I can put a fine point on it, I am a very strong supporter of our public school system. Like I said, I'm a proud graduate of Bayview High School. I know we got some other people, but I was waiting for it. I set her up for it. No, it's okay. But that's that pride. And I do believe in our public school system. And actually, when I get out and talk about it a lot, I've had people say to me, "No, Marina, why are you talking about the public school system? It's a totally different entity, different organization. You don't have a lot to do with it." I said, "No, I don't. I actually reject that. If I'm going to be the mayor of the largest city in the state of Wisconsin, and one of the largest cities in the nation, I believe we have to have a thriving public school system. I'm not willing to give up. I'm not willing to change anything. In fact, what I believe is that as the mayor of the city of Milwaukee, if I can do everything I can to set children up for success, which means setting up families for success, back to what we said about housing, higher wages, healthcare, you name it. It's the city of Milwaukee's responsibility, I believe, to make sure that everyone can thrive in the school system. And if those basic needs are not met, how can people go to school? We're asking teachers to conduct miracles. What if the children are attending public schools with lead poisoning in their blood? These are things that we're not just setting kids up not to fail. I want kids to not just even survive, but to thrive. What does that Milwaukee look and feel like? So again, that is my business. And I'm talking about nutrition, housing, removing lead paint. If we operate in that vision, that every family has everything they need to succeed, I guarantee you we'll see a higher graduation rate. And I guarantee you things will change. So I'm not willing to back down or change on that. I think it is the city's business to make sure that families have what they need to succeed in our education system. That is incredibly important to me. And it's why I haven't had a chance to look at everybody's platform because everything's moving so fast, but I can tell you that I'm committed. I know I've talked about and I've announced universal pre-kindergarten for our children. And what I'm talking about, remember I have a 3 and 5-year-old as well. I'm talking about 2, 3, 4-year-old. The city of New York has it. Imagine what that looks like as well. We know in this pandemic that when people got sick, they had to stay at home. And I'm talking to all those mothers and fathers out there because I'm one of them. Either you were sick or your child was sick or they had COVID-like symptoms. You couldn't go to work. And then remember when school was shut down for an entire year? When we talk about infrastructure, we have to talk about human infrastructure. That's part of our economy is childcare. So if we have 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds getting free and universal education when their minds are at that level where they can grow the most, and it provides you childcare so we can all do what we need to do, I think that's really powerful. And I'm committed to that as mayor. It's a program that I've looked into. And like I said, we got other cities across the nation doing it. New York, our children in Milwaukee deserve that too. Universal pre-kindergarten. Let's set up our children to succeed earlier than anywhere else. And I believe we can do it right here in Milwaukee.
From our Rufus King General here.
Okay. Oh,
He said from our Rufus King General.
Oh, okay, I thought that was one too. I'm like,
Since you invoked your high school, I gotta invoke mine. I'm a proud general. Yes, I am. King girl all the way. Yes. There you go. So education, I think, is key. No young couple or young person who wants to have a family chooses a community
that does not have a school system that their child can thrive in. It will not help with home ownership. It will not help with business development if we do not have a system that thrives. Ms. Griffin has spoke about, the challenges that exist in the school district. And there is no question that when I hear from Job Corps that people have come out reading at a first grade or third grade level, but they graduated, that some of the things that she said, that there's validity to that. I meet with the superintendent monthly. Every first Monday, I meet with the superintendent. I've done that since the superintendent has been in, and I've actually had meetings with prior superintendents in a similar way, so that I could talk about all of the issues that they may have where they need help from me as a state legislator. But I want to be clear, I implemented or shared with them things I wanted to see, and they implemented some of those things. I've spoken with them about urban agriculture and the role that urban agriculture can play to help with mental health challenges, to help with putting people on a pathway to sustainability. I've also talked with them, and what is really important to me is that the city actually owns the buildings that the schools are in. I talked to a gentleman in the back, he said he was a property owner. He doesn't live in the city, but he's a property owner. We're the property owner of the schools that our children are going in that have lead contamination in the water. We can do better. Where the repairs and the maintenance might need to be thought about differently because the school district has not been funded fairly, funding challenges, formula challenges from the state across the board for Milwaukee County and the city of Milwaukee. So making sure that those buildings are not just sitting on the tax rolls, making sure that those buildings are in the conditions that they need for our young people are important. And let's just take what they learn. I think it is important that in a district that is predominantly of color and a majority African American, that Black history should be a part of what they do and what they learn. So what I'm articulating is that I've been on the front lines from everything from saying that they should have that and the kind of content that they have, to the buildings that they're in, to the leader that is presently leading them, to pour into him and for him to pour into me things that need to be done. And then I've used the love and faith model so that individuals have the ability to have dual enrollment at MATC and get credit for doing these things that I'm telling you I want to see implemented that organizations are doing now, like Teens Grow Greens and other organizations, Northcott, are doing, where young people now can get badge, I'm saying it wrong again, but like a credential, a badge credential. That came from my work. That came from my work with MPS and with MATC to be able to help change, what we're doing. In the end, our school district needs help. And I want to also be a voice, if possible, to be a voice in every way that I can with the school board, with the school district, with the buildings. And no, I'm not trying to run the schools, but I'm trying to say as a mayor, they are a priority.
Ms. Bradford?
Yes, so I would just like to announce that education is wealth, so when we think about that, we want to think about the curriculum that's aligning our children today that they set themselves up to go to school for every day. And with that in mind, of course, we all need to know our general reading and writing. How about you? Of course, we want to know, our kids to have, higher GPAs in their reading and writing. And of course, we need to implement more arts for the children as well as an outlet. But not only that, just to implement life skills and trades that they're going to actually take beyond high school and implement into the community where they're coming out of school with, like Ms. Taylor said, certification and trades that they can actually apply directly to their life skills with work and pursue their career. And not only just that, just thinking about the nourishment that our children are receiving while they're in school. Of course, they have their traditional breakfast and lunch, but think about those children who don't know what they're going to eat when they go home. What about those additional snack packs that children would thrive from as they're on their way home? And again, what we surround ourselves around is pretty much molds us to what we will become, and that's just the building and the upkeep that the children acquire getting in school.
And I just want to interject really quick that the United States Supreme Court stated that people have a constitutional right, the states have to give them a constitutional right to a public education. However, they don't have to give them a proper education. The United States Supreme Court stated that if you put your child in a public school, you put them in the hands of being miseducated, and schools have a right to give them miseducation. I went to Custer, West Division, and Rufus King. I experienced some of the most deplorable things. I was kicked out repeatedly for challenging things. I went to a choice program school and I graduated valedictorian in my class. And I constantly wondered why, because I asked why they use the word nigger at West Division. They kicked me out. I went to Custer High School and I had a driver's education student, he said, let me take a picture of all the black students in case we need a mug shot. And I said, well, why we can't take pictures of you? Kicked out of school. And I told my parents, like, I just can't keep doing this. Every time I go to school, I'm not learning. They're telling me why I can't be this or why I can't do that, And we just gotta face the fact that the school, the public school intends on taking a certain dynamic of students and telling them what they cannot be. And the curriculum is so bad and the expulsion rate is high. And they don't have a record of why they're being expelled from school. This is public school. And so we have to hold the school again accountable for these services, and we have to look at the options and what's best for our children. We can't just say it's public school, it's proper education.
All right, we might as well swing the mic to the left there for all the persons that need to age. We asked this earlier, I'm gonna ask it again. How do you plan to address the boarded up homes in our communities and the boarded up businesses in our communities, and what are your plans to help small business development?
Let me start with the small business development. I'm incredibly proud of some work I did right away upon being elected as alderwoman for small businesses. Specifically, I'm going to focus on restaurants and bars and restaurants. As we know, a lot of people, you can save up some money and you can open up a small bar and restaurant, and it really is part of a dream for many folks. And during the pandemic, I started a program called Active Streets. And what it is it allows extra dining or, entertaining, socializing outside, but in the parking space. And when I'm telling you this story, it seems like a little program, but it's a peek into my vision about how we can do things to help small businesses, especially in time of need, which we know we've lost. I'm sure we can all think of your favorite restaurant or bar or what have you that probably didn't survive the pandemic, whether it be closing because of less customers or their own workers being sick or infected. It's been really hard to not just survive, but thrive, like I said. And so that was a problem with a solution. And I do think that's something that I've always looked for in my county service as well as my city service and local government. That's what I love about local government is you can use local resources and these nuts and bolts ideas that you can drive by and see on the streets. And so I'm committed to small businesses. I want to work within our Department of City Development, which focuses on attracting very large developments as well, but really create an office of small business, because I do believe that's very accessible for most working folks, and they have to succeed. In fact, rarely is it that a large development comes and then little businesses follow. In fact, it's kind of a mixture of both, if not the other way around. People love a neighborhood, not because it is a big tall building, it's because I like that restaurant, that coffee shop, or whatever, and that creates a sense of community altogether, right? So and why I'm saying that is as much as we use government resources and tax incremental financing, TIF, tools as such to attract large businesses, we need to do the exact same for small businesses. Micro grants. And we've seen a lot of that come through with the COVID relief. It's time to really laser focus in an equitable way. $1,000 grant for a very small business could be defining, right? It could be really important. It could be you closing the doors or leaving them open post-pandemic. And so actually in my campaign finance report, you can see I have a lot of support from small businesses. And I'm really proud of that. I think it means something that people are investing in my campaign and hopefully feel that support likewise for small businesses. I do think that's the fabric of our community. And like I said, I'm committed to additional resources. I think those micro grants I really think are the way to go, because we get to a large amount of small businesses, and that somewhat smaller level of money can make a big impact. $1,000 to $5,000 on a coffee shop is a big deal. Just using that as that example. Your second part of the question, I'm sorry, was small businesses and then, home, oh, the boarded up homes, I'm sorry, I got so far off on the small business. Boarded up, and I'll move on to the next person, the boarded up homes and businesses. Also, let's be honest, we know it's in specific areas have more boarded up homes than other areas, whether it be zip code or aldermanic based. That's not right. I just want you to hear it from me, specifically in the beginning of the frame. That's not okay. It shouldn't feel that one certain aldermanic district, if you will, or geographic area has many more boarded up homes than others. It's just not acceptable. So I just want to make sure I put it on the record that it's not okay. How do you fix it? Well, a couple of things. We did offer to sell many of these properties, not only for $1 or whatever it takes. We got to go above and beyond. And there is debate at the council of if some of those could even be fixed or if they should be raised, and then we sell the land. It's a tough thing to do because we know many of those properties that are boarded up have a lot of structural issues. So we are going one by one throughout the inventory and trying to do the best that we can. I do think there is opportunity there where the structures, if they are sound and they can use, housing trust fund and housing financial support, but that could be an opportunity for a family to purchase a home at a pretty low cost. But I want to be honest, some of the structures that are boarded up have a long history of damage, and we have to have a conversation as a city, what is the right next step. And I guess just lastly, the boarded up homes, we also have to look at how and when we board up a home, because we want to make sure that it's on the inspection level, but it's not creating further damage to the nearby surrounding houses, because we know that lowers your property value. So I guess where I want to end on this is back to my point about healthcare and other things, prevention. What can we do at the city and what type of resources to help that homeowner that may have been foreclosed on, that may have had structural issues and can afford the bills that feels compounding? If we can prevent that from happening, it could prevent the boarding up and prevent the sale. And I think more funding on the front end would actually have a much better result.
Well, I just want to say that the Housing Act of 1954 gave a lot of cities urban renewal programs, federal block grants that's still available to this day. So there's no reason the city should have boarded up homes when the money is there, been there, and still is there. And then just to reiterate as far as about small businesses and the grants, who are they giving them to though? That's the thing. I think it should be mandatory that a certain amount of money automatically goes to minorities. Because we have a lot of people that's private contractors, they never see that money, great ideas, and the city just overlooks them. So we should have a mandatory amount of money going to minorities as it relates to small businesses. So it can be equal opportunity.
Great. If I may, there's a question here for the two elected officials on the panel from our audience here.
Is it possible to myself?
I thought we could go back. You want to add on to this?
I
Okay.
definitely
Briefly.
want to be able to speak to the boarded up homes and businesses. I think it is an eyesore, and I think the beautification of our city also goes to, we were talking about high school, but it goes to the pride that can exist in our city. I believe beautification is important, and it's going to be a key component in what I do in my administration, if I'm blessed to be able to be the mayor. Presently, we don't do enough deconstruction of buildings. We don't do enough with helping with the timeline when things are boarded up to get to results and what that board up looks like. If that board up is like what Alderwoman Cox has on North Avenue and the board up has words of encouragement, or if it's just that green that everybody look at and be like, oh, I can use that for whatever. I think that matters. And then lastly, I will say what I said earlier, the concept of using those buildings as outdoor classrooms so that people can learn the trades, so that people can learn how to do lateral removal, so that those buildings can be converted into things so that our young people, and not just our young people, can become homeowners and business owners, so that we can put some of those buildings back on the tax roll is important.
Did you want to add, Ms. Brown?
Yes, I would just like to say the board up should have a turnaround time as far as the redevelopment for that specific location. I think with us having a turnaround time, there should be punctuation on us meeting with the community to see what exactly they would like to see there. I think we should also receive proposals from the community members who's looking to be entrepreneurs and can bring better services to those communities. And also when it comes to a lot of the state-owned buildings, that we just redevelop those sites and then have them as an organization for the youth within the community where they can come work, receive funds, and give back to their community.
Thank you. And this is for the two elected from our audience. For our currently elected officials, what is one vote or position you've taken, a policy that you supported that you now wish you hadn't?
Policy
Dimitri.
Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, give me a second, because it's a lot of stuff in 18 years. I'm trying to think of a specific policy or something that I supported that, I'm having a brain fart. But I know that there's something for sure.
If you don't find it, somebody will though.
Right. I'm certain that there's, something, right now my brain is,
That was a good question. Whoever
That is a
submitted
good
Yeah.
question.
it's a very good question, because one of the things I'll say to you is what I know in doing legislation is that it often needs to go back and we have to do something else that's, connected to it. And, I know, one piece of legislation I can think of that, many people, were challenged that I was a part of is legislation, the county board bill, and this will be one that. Right. The county board bill, I still will say that, I don't know that I would say that I wish that I wasn't a part of it, because they would only be making about $9,000 or $16,000 if I had not been a leader who stood up and pressed it to get it to 24, when the average that it should be was about mid-30s, but they were at like 52 or something thousand, compared to other counties where the highest amount was 9,000, and if you multiply it by the number of people they served, you would only get to 36. But I also was able to get them to put something that's important, the median salary, to be the way that the salary for the elected will now go. And getting the chair a few extra dollars, and getting the chair of the finance committee a few extra dollars. So if I, had to choose one that I wish I had more power in making it different, I surely would. But that's definitely.
Right. Ms.
Yeah,
Dimitri?
I'll do a short one. I guess when I reflect, on, like I said, well, Senator Taylor and I have had a pretty long career, so this is a lot of votes in there. I got elected when I was 22, and I had 2 babies in office, so I myself as a person have changed. I think that's what you want in a mayor, is someone who's willing to say when you're wrong, be a good listener, hear different opinions. So that's not hard for me to do. I'm constantly learning. But I can think of 2 things. I can definitely think of things I wish I would have worked harder on. So that's one thing, I'll say something like the sales tax is one I wish we could continue to work harder for. It's still a discussion at the state. We need those resources locally. We need more local authority to get those resources. But specifically, I'm gonna tell you a real specific one. And actually Senator Taylor participated in this, our local redistricting. As you see, I had it voted on the first map, and we went through a very long process, months of change, where I ended up at the end of the process submitting a map that was going to change my own district by 40% or so to increase the Latino representation and voice. So in that process, I myself had a big change, learned something, and then produced a map. In the end, we did have some legal questions and challenges, but the point is, this is a recent item where I myself had changed along the way. And I think that's what you want in legislators and executives, where if you get information, you get more information, and specifically if you get public feedback, you want to feel as members and constituents and residents that you can contact us and say, this wasn't right, this needs to be changed, and we react accordingly. So I'm committed to that, and I think that was a demonstration, a good example of that.
The final question then is, I'm sure everyone here would agree, as I said earlier, it takes a lot of courage to run for any office, but particularly for mayor in this city. And the question is, the statement that came from the audience, aside from Mayor Johnson, this panel has been all women. What would you say becoming the first female mayor in the city of Milwaukee? What would that mean to you personally? You want to start with over here, Lisa?
of course, it'll be a historical change, and that's what we're looking to make great change. And making office is not a self-entitlement that I'm looking to proclaim for myself, but for the community. And there's a panel of great women up here, wonderful ideas, and I love to support working directly with not just the constituents of the local community, nevertheless, the entire board for our business in total.
Thank you.
I agree. I feel like, I just want to have one moment to be like, girl power. And, you know, on this panel right now, it, would be an amazing honor. I was passed the baton by, Alderwoman Marlene Johnson, when she, chose, actually, at, connected with this facility and the work, that they did. She chose me to pass her baton to, and as a woman who championed the Martin Luther King Drive, and as a woman who championed issues in this community, it means a lot. My soror, Judge Val Hill, is the only woman elected citywide, and has been, to be a woman of color, to be elected in a city that is majority a city of color. What an honor it will be. I also believe that being a woman of color is also an important thing to me, because the disparities and things that we speak about, the children, Marina has spoke to it, and Ms. Griffin, Aisha has spoke to being a mother. I feel like it gives me an opportunity to be a part of birthing a new Milwaukee that transforms in a different way. And that's exciting, if I could just say. And I'll end with, I have a 22-year-old. He would stop taking a turkey to a neighbor, a frozen turkey to a neighbor, after we had fed 1,500 people that time. And that's something that, you know, I've been a part of doing a lot. And spearheading those efforts is time consuming. But when that happened to my son, it is a reminder of the issues that citizens deal with every day. And so I think as a woman and as a mother, we come to the table slightly different. And we approach things slightly different. I think something that I've heard from each of these candidates up here are solution, out of the box kind of thinking. And I think that as women, we bring that to the table. And I mean, no offense to the men out there, because we birth y'all too. And I want to work with everyone, but I feel a sense of pride to be able to be potentially the first woman, and at the very least, to be a part of the historic election process that I don't know that these many women have ever ran. And so I'm very honored, I think is the point that I want to say. I'm very honored to be able to be a part of this, and I'm very honored that I may have the ability to move us and birth us to something different.
Okay, yes, Senator Taylor, really, I knew she was gonna bring up the birthing. It is unique, it's a unique experience. I mean, I had 2 children while in elected office. The moment itself is so unique. Like Senator Taylor mentioned, I'm pretty sure, whenever I quote history, I don't want someone to PolitiFact me, but I know there has been a lot of women that have run, which is why we've never had a female mayor. But I do think this is probably one of the largest amounts that we've ever seen. But let's face it, it's also because it has been an open seat for a while. There's only been 4 or 5 mayors in about 100 years. So that's why this election is so important, because Milwaukee has a history of keeping mayors around for a while. And I think, you know, just being on this stage in this moment, I know it matters to me. I know I want my daughter to see that I'm trying as well, and that we are part of the conversation, and that we can lead a city. Like Senator Taylor says, and many up here have spoke about their own personal experiences as a mother. I do think we see our city in a unique and different way. Let's talk about it. We have our first female vice president. I'm pretty sure she's coming to Milwaukee on Monday, I thought I heard.
She is.
So this is just a moment for our nation, our city. Let's be part of the change. You know, all of us are additionally qualified on top of that special gender role that we occupy, but it does bring a unique perspective. It brings a different style. We run a household. I mean, that's a budget that takes day-to-day management. Me with toddlers is challenging. And so it's exciting to be part of this moment. It's exciting to be part of history. But I do want to offer that is great and I'm excited about it, believe me. And it's challenging. We're in different types of conversations and people ask us different types of questions at times. You know what I'm saying? But it also means that I hope people, what they see in us and any change agent, is that we're gonna deliver for people and the people of Milwaukee, that we can put together a coalition with solutions and get things done. Because that's what I hear as I'm out and about. And like Ms. Griffin had mentioned, that people just, it's not working. It's the, like I said, the status quo. And so that's the great thing about change and history, as we know. I think we're all gonna confront this job ready to shake some things up and ready to bring about some change. And I know that we're all able to do that and excited to be part of the conversation. And I hope voters are as excited as we are because it's such an important election. People are starting to vote next week already via absentee. So anyone listening and watching, and we're at a historical building as well, the Women's Center. I mean, this is quite a moment, and I just hope that people are able to contribute and be part of it, which I appreciate being here today.
I believe sometimes where you stand depends on where you sit. And I've sat in the midst of a storm, a fire, and no disrespect to you at all, but I think that it's time for a woman, but I think it's time for a Black woman. Because a Black woman has been the most underserved, underprivileged. She's the number one head of the household in Milwaukee, and the number one head of the household is the white man and the Black woman throughout the nation. I think that I'm best qualified because I've experienced corruption in the government. A corrupt government will lie on you as quick as they will lie to you. I do not have a problem fighting against inequality. I didn't run for fun. Some people, Charles Vincent asked me, well, you've lost other races. What makes you think you win now? I said, well, players never lose. So I'm gonna win regardless. I don't trust the process. It was hard for me to be on the ballot, even though I had ballot nominations. I had to ask for investigations and all of the different things in the nation. 2021 has been the most devastating year of my life. What happened to my daughter? I lost my father, the greatest man I ever known. But then at the last minute, I heard about this race going through different things. And I said, you know what? Even though I'm broken, I'm not going to fold. And so I went out there and got the nomination signatures, and I met so many beautiful people. And it was these young men, Leonard Parker, Daniel McMillan, Arthur G. They was coming to me saying prayers. Didn't even know what I was going through. And I started meeting seniors who looked like my father, had to walk off and take a minute to, regroup. But I said, this is too important, and that's one thing about a Black woman, that strength. I'm broken, but I'm not folding, and I won't fold on the community, and that's one thing that this Milwaukee has never ever seen. Someone from the trenches, someone from the struggle, but not just from it, but got ideas and solutions and will stand toe to toe with the opposition. And that's me. And that's what separates me from other people. And even if I don't win, I still will continue to fight for people. But I just really truly hope this be a fair and equal race, because I have so much to offer, and that's what I believe that Milwaukee needs. Someone like them, of them, and I believe that 1,594 people who personally gave me their blessings right away when they saw me, when they heard me, they heard my ideas. That's what we want, that's what we need, And I thought about it. I was looking at Lena Taylor said, I said, you know what? I don't have to tear her down to say, why I'm going to talk about it. So I just believe that, if given the opportunity, I would be humble. And I will serve the people open and honesty, and that's the type of person I am. You see what you get, I've had people say, hey, let me put lashes on you, let me put makeup on you. I'm like, that's not me, not to be disrespectful, not to be this and that, I don't want makeup on me until I die. We got a beer competition. They want me to drink beer. Never ever drunk beer in my life, never ever smoked a cigarette, never ever smoked weed, and my children I have some siblings that haven't done that. So everybody don't do everything. You have some people that's different. And I'm very different. And I'm different for a reason, and I just want to give people a chance to know you don't have to suffer, and I believe I can bring that to the table if elected as mayor. Thank you.
right, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our panelists. Let's give a hand. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. You've been watching this live from the great Wisconsin African American Women's Center. We appreciate your involvement, your input, all your questions. And thanks again, and good luck to all four of you.
All right.
Thank you so much.